Well, hello. It's a Saturday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Therefore, time for a Saturday night shoot the breeze. I want to thank everyone who participated last week, both in the panel and in the chat. Let's hope that we can hold on a second. Yeah, so I know you guys can hear me because I just heard the playback. What I like to do is come on and let you guys know what we have in store tonight. Tonight, we're going to discuss a topic that was supposed to happen last week. Dr. John Henry Clark saying, I only debate my equals, all others I teach. You'll see what that's about. We're going to talk about African culture, African spirituality, uh, preservation, and protection. We're going to talk about fear of a black planet. Why is there a fear of an increase in black fertility? We'll talk about if black people had a system of consequences, what would be allowed and not allowed. And lastly, we're going to talk about if passing as white can be used in some strategy of espionage and warfare for black people. So those are the topics that we have in store for you tonight. What we'll do is, so Jackadero's out there in the chat. He says, we now can hear you. Okay. With that said, we'll start the show officially right now. And on the other side, we'll drop Shoot the Breeze topic number one, as well as introduce any and all of my panelists tonight. Stay tuned.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio. Welcome to the Bitter Medicine Podcast, where it's all about Black empowerment. Our show focuses on Black news and entertainment, arts, science, economics, history, people, and strategies that uplift, empower, and motivate Africans within the diaspora. And now, your host, whose favorite color is black, Goku.
Welcome back to the Bitter Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Koku. Just want to remind you guys before we get the show rolling that this show is part of a podcast network called KWAZ Radio. There are other shows on the network you are invited to tune into.
This is D Webb with the Harsh Reality Podcast, asking you to tune in where we tackle the news of the day that affects our community, only on KWAZ Radio.
Peace, family. This is Oni, inviting you to listen to the Pro-Black Perspective, where black problems are addressed with black solutions.
Greetings, fam. Tune in to The Learning Curve with me, the Revolutionary Matron on KWAZ Radio.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
Yes, indeed. Make sure you also tune in to Brother Bakari, the BBN Black Business Network. Make sure you're tuned into the Forecast Radio. Make sure you're tuned in to Consider It Cheek, Realm in the Bush. And last but not least, make sure you tune in to Kofi, the Black Critic. Shout out to Brother Anthony in the chat, who's shouting out everyone associated with KWAZ Radio. Shout out to Daily Affirmations by Pauline. Shout out to my panelists who are here with me so far tonight, man. Black Steel, how are you this week?
I'm doing great, Coco. How about yourself?
I'm good, man. Thanks for coming through. With that said, let me welcome in our boy Jackadero this week. Jackadero, how are you?
I'm in a good mood. Good to be here. Thank you.
Good. Haven't seen you for a while. That's why I reached out to you recently. Haven't seen you in a while, so I hope all is well. Last but not least is our brother Buana. Buana, how are you this week?
Coco, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, shout out to everyone on the panel, man. It's great to be back. Shout out to you, Black Steel. Jackadero, you know what it is. I hope you're well, brother. Shout out to everyone.
Yes, sir. Appreciate that. Appreciate all you guys joining in tonight. You know what? Let's just get right into it, man. Shoot the Breeze topic number 1 tonight says, quote, I only debate my equals, all others I teach. That's from Dr. John Henrik Clark. This comes with a link that's going to take us to X. So first, let me make sure you guys can see what I see. Hold on, there's a problem. Fix that. All right. So now you guys can see the screen. We'll watch the video. Let me see, how long is it? 2.5 minutes. We'll see if I need to play it again or not, but we'll watch it in the meantime.
Black Americans are about 13 to 14% of the population.
Yes,
about half of all prisoners are black.
Exactly.
So blacks commit more crimes than whites do. They commit more murders, they commit more arsons, they commit more kidnappings. For example, blacks are 13% of the population and they commit 58% of all the murders.
Okay, let's talk about it. These are obviously racist claims, but I will respond to them as if Charlie Kirk were a reasonable person.
Black Americans are about 13 to 14% of the population.
Yes,
about half of all prisoners are black.
Wrong. Just 38% of America's prison population is black. That's according to the US government. But it makes you wonder why Charlie feels the need to add an additional 12% to the black prison population. Could it be because his bigoted talking points only work if he exaggerates them? If Charlie were actually looking for the race that makes up half the prison population in the US, he'd look no further than white people at 57%.
Exactly.
So blacks commit more crimes than whites do.
Wrong. The word so is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence.
Exactly.
So blacks commit more crimes.
He's saying so, as in therefore, as in one could conclude, but Charlie knows he's lying. Even if he hadn't just lied about the black prison population, Charlie is smart enough to know that correlation does not equal causation, but he's hoping that you don't know that. So he deploys the word so to make you think he's coming to an obvious conclusion.
Exactly.
So blacks
Instead, he's making an illogical, racist leap. Charlie knows that we don't have usable data about who commits crimes. It's impossible to have that data since so many crimes go both unreported and or unsolved. Charlie knows that we only have data about arrests and convictions. I'll come back to that data in a moment. What's painfully obvious is that Charlie Kirk isn't interested in understanding the statistics he so carelessly misquotes. He's interested in making bad faith arguments, something that becomes even more obvious in his next point.
blacks are 13% of the population and they commit 58% of all the murders.
Wrong again, and loud this time. If Charlie were interested in honesty, he would have mentioned the other 1350 statistic. Yes, black people are about 13% of the population, but make up 53% of all criminal exonerations. In fact, black people make up 55% of all murder exonerations. Specifically, black people are more likely than any other group in this country to be convicted of crimes they did not commit. And then people like you have the nerve to parade these stats around as though they prove something. The reality is that you probably know these stats, but you leave them out on purpose, because to bring that stat into this conversation would make some people think. And that's the last thing a person like you wants.
All right. I think we all got that right. Charlie Kirk is one of these American white right wingers. Some people call him an evangelist of the right wing, and he does these debates, I guess. He sits down across from college students discussing mostly black folks and how much they basically hate him. And he likes to come with the stats and stuff like that. So that's what you're seeing at the beginning of this video. And then this black man here, he comes in and kind of refutes a lot of what's being said. So just to set that up real quick. But before I actually get into the conversation, man, we got a couple of people who joined us on the panel. That'll be one of them will be Kofi, the Black Critic. Kofi, how are you this week?
I'm doing good, feeling blessed. How are you this week?
I'm good, man. Thanks for coming through as always, you know?
Yeah.
With that said, let's welcome in Oni from the Pro-Black Perspective. Oni, how are you this week?
I'm good. Peace. How you guys doing?
Good. Thanks for coming through. Been a while. Are you on the continent right now?
Yeah, man. Always on the continent. So some brother just kept me. So that's not possible.
All right.
Yeah, all right.
All right. Thanks for coming through. And also, last but not least, let's welcome in Brother Anthony. Anthony, how are you this week?
Hey, peace, man. I'm doing good. How about yourself, bro?
I'm good. I'm hanging it.
Can
Thanks
y'all
for
hear
coming
me?
through.
Yeah,
All
peace,
right,
all
so we got
peace
a
to everybody else on the
panel
panel.
tonight. Yeah, so we got a good sized panel tonight. All we're missing is a Cheryl or the matron or someone like that, a black woman to help round out the conversation a bit. But in any event, should be starting with one says, quote, "I only debate my equals, all others I teach," by Dr. John Henrik Clarke. Let me start off with Oni, actually. Oni, what are your thoughts about the video and the idea of debating these right wingers in general?
Oh wait, I kind of missed most of it. I was trying to turn on my computer and I missed most of it. So I'll have to pass this prompt, but I'll get to the next one.
All right, cool. Let me go to Buana next. Buana, what say?
Well, Koku, this for me personally, this is just regurgitated stuff. There is a famous interview, very famous interview, online by Dr. Francis Cress Welsing and this professor. His name is William Shockley, and they did this debate in the 70s. Same kind of regurgitated talking point. Blacks are this, blacks are that, blacks are this. And at the time, Frances Cress Welsing did her best to refute many of his claims he was making. But what is important about that interview is Mr. Neely Fuller's response, because he was watching the debate and he made comments in terms of the response, how you should respond to these kinds of people who make these claims. He said that, okay, so now we have all this propensity to commit crime. We are the top of the list when it comes to murder and mayhem and all. What should be done to us? He said, get to the doing part. Since we so enabled, since we so criminal minded, what should be done? He said you could stop the whole debate and conversation by having a discussion in terms of what should be done to black people. Get to the doing part. And I find it very funny because this man will make $1 million, $2-3 million off of just going around on a campaign and showing and telling people how enabled or criminal minded, statistically, all the stats and stuff like that, how black people are. And he'll make $100 million doing it. It's regurgitated stuff. William Shockley did the same thing in the 70s, make a whole money, having toys. My question is, why is this particular person so important? What is he adding to the zeitgeist? Just because he's saying this and he's popular among certain crowds of people, we should all pay attention to what he says? He is no different from what a bunch of other European Americans think. So what? What should be done to us? What should be done to us if you believe these things? After a while, after all, didn't we grow up? We grew up in America. We came up under the system. So, and it seemed we can't get it right. So what should be done to all these black people who was causing all the mayhem in the United States of America? Get to the doing part. And I think that with this particular gentleman, he was just criticizing Ketanji Brown Jackson, saying that she's a DEI hire. This man he's a dropout. He's a dropout criticizing somebody with all the accolades in the world, saying that she's incapable, even though she is probably one of the most educated person in the Supreme Court. But his voice is the loudest in the room, and we should pay attention to this particular guy who no one, what is his claim to fame? What does he do for a living? He goes on a YouTube video and gets on camera and says black people are insufficient or retarded. And the whole black world goes wild. Let me debate with him and show him why we adequate and we can do anything else like the rest of the people. The debate is over, and John Henry Clark is right. He is right. The hustlers and the grifters gonna hustle and grift. If people are led to believe these things, so be it. But my question is, when we gotta get to the doing part, what are you gonna do about it? Since you have us as the biggest criminal in the world, what are you gonna do about it? And see, when they get to the doing part, that's what people don't want to talk about and discuss. You know, but like I say, for me, this is just regurgitated nonsense from past history. These grifting guys are gonna get on. Even black people getting on these tours now, where they only talk about the inadequateness of black people and get millions of dollars for their jobs in doing these kinds of things. It's a hustle. It's a grift. It's a thing to make whites in America feel good. But needless to say, man, that's what I have to say on this particular topic.
I appreciate that, Buana. Buana said a few things there, but one of the things that stood out to me, and I'm curious with the remainder of the panelists, as you give your responses, do you think it's, you know, do you think it's something that black folks should just ignore when you got these type of talking heads dumping on your name and image all the time? So I'll go to Kofi next. Kofi, what say you?
This is Charlie Kirk. The guy that's debunking him is Garrison Hayes. He's a political commentator, very, very, very good. He comes on a lot of platforms, political platforms. So he's very good at doing this. You know, he does the work on the street and everything. So what we're seeing right here is Charlie Kirk. So to set the stage up, as you see right there, you see people reacting. They have very, very good content. It's a YouTube channel called Jubilee. And I think what that is called a thing called Surrounded. So I think it was Charlie Kirk versus 20 liberals. Same thing happened with Jordan Peterson. Same thing happened with Cenk, Mehdi Hassan. They had one with the last one. The good one they had was Mehdi Hassan versus 24 right wingers. So you had a bunch of right wingers on there that they say they want autocracy, they want a dictatorship, that they're fascists, that they love Hitler. So just to give you the layout of what was happening over there with Charlie Kirk. So I mean, there's a little black people there sprinkled in there too as well. So, but like Buana said, this is something since Birth of a Nation, which was the first political propaganda piece they had out for black people in this country. You know, this is a trope that's keep on going. So I like what Buana did. Frances Cress Welsing, she did that. They're talking about, well, black people, if you ever guys saw that, see that, it's classic. Basically saying that black people are inherently and genetically inferior, you know, animalistic in that particular way. And Frances Cress Welsing said, well, you know, white people suffer from more genetic disorders and diseases. And he admitted to it. So, okay, so why knowing that, why are you saying that black people are genetically, you know, inferior if you're more prone to genetic diseases and disorders? You know, so I just love the 80s and 90s. That was like the golden era of black intelligence. But anyway, I wouldn't really I'll take heed to this, but I mean, I wouldn't be alarmed by it, because if you're a black person conscious in this country and in the world, you know, this is the mind frame of white people, especially racist white people that already have a preconceived notion of what a black person is and who they are. I think the question is more for how many of us black people are aware of this. So people like me, I'm not shocked by this. People like Buana and everyone on this panel, no one is shocked by this. You know, this is not something that we heard, we you know, that is new to us. I think the question is more of how is this? Do black people even care? Do black people even know the truth of these so-called stats, right? And again, saying 12% of the population, these are just arrests. And I'll land it with this one. And I mean, I love Queen Latifah as an actress and artist or whatever. But one thing I did commend her back in the days, if you guys remember, Queen Latifah had a talk show. And I used to look at it. And it was somebody like a Charlie Kirk figure on this talk show saying these same stats. So this is like what, early 2000s, probably like 2010 or 11 or something like that, saying that. And Queen Latifah said something like, wait, so you're saying that there's a lot of black people in prison. Is it possible those numbers are the way it is because black people are policed more? So you're looking at what the end result is. You're not looking at as of to why. And being a native New Yorker, living in predominantly black neighborhoods, middle class black neighborhoods, middle class to poor black neighborhoods to white neighborhoods, I have seen this all the time. Like Coco, you would know, Buana, you would know. I'm living like in Flatbush. Flatbush is strictly a black Caribbean area, but I was living in Diker Heights. Diker Heights is like Bensonhurst, Sheepshead Bay. It's nothing but whites and Asians there. I went from there where white boys, you got white people sitting out there in front of their pizzeria, sitting there with chairs, drinking wine. You got white boys over there drag racing, woo, top down, woo, doing all this stuff. I'm like, wow, not police in sight. Not police in sight, and it's okay. I get the Flatbush, I get to Church Avenue, all of a sudden, cops on every corner, harassing people just trying to make a living, harassing people trying to do gypsy cabs, dollar cabs, people selling stuff that no criminality, but they're being criminalized for all those things. Oh, you can't stand here, you're loitering, you gotta move. Oh, let me pull this one over. You look suspicious. Do you have a license? Do you have I'll never forget. I was like, wait, you guys probably work at a different precinct. I'm talking to the cops. You guys probably work at a different precinct, right? But I find this really fucking crazy where you got to do a job. Fine. I get that. I'm not anti-police. But what you guys doing is fucked up. I just left the place where you got people drag racing, drinking on the corner of the street, drinking, having wine, doing all that. Everyone that's outside of loitering on businesses, but y'all ain't got shit to say. But you know why? Because everybody over there is Italian, they're Irish, they're this, they're that. I used to live in Queens, white boys outside of a pub, woo, drinking, acting crazy, acting a fool. I grew up in Jamaica, Queens, but right on the other side, right? Same thing, policing. But they won't tell you that. So anybody that knows. So this is just another racist dog whistle that we need to ignore, but at the same time, really share the message with black people who may not know. And I'll end it there.
Appreciate that, Kofi. Let me have from Anthony on next. Anthony, what are your thoughts on this?
Okay. Can you hear me, Coco?
Yes, sir.
Oh, so, yeah, some kind of delay. Okay. Yeah, man. It's just like they use it as like a political football. You know what I'm saying? Where where you had these different these white right talking heads, who are always talking about the criminality in America and black people and Hispanic people and other non-white people. You know what I mean? They use it as a political football. But I'm saying the irony is, to me, that the most criminal people that ever lived on the face of the earth, these Europeans, what I'm saying, who left their countries and went to other people's countries, stole people's land, committed genocide against millions of people, and enslaved millions of people. And then bringing it, we don't even have to go that far back. We can go back to their wars in Europe and their wars, period, where they killed millions of their own damn people. You know what I'm saying? I mean, where they bombed cities, killed men, women, and children, and didn't have no problem with it. You know what I'm saying? Calling other, trying to call other people criminal and say how criminal everybody else is. I mean, even right now to the day. I mean, you just had last year, whatever. Some cracker said something about so many millions and millions of people need to die. You know what I'm saying? No, talking about because of overpopulation. Africa's not overpopulated. Much of the world isn't. I mean, the place that's overpopulated is Europe. You know what I'm saying? I mean, perhaps like some of them, if they could call some of them. But I'm just saying, they talking about every year about killing millions of people. They don't say killing, but they saying, the whole population control thing. So I mean, when we've been hearing this here for so long, I mean, we could go back to, them trying to justify maintaining slavery of African people here and everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Or saying how, the African is a savage and he's unable to to build a civilization, to run a country, to run a nation, like Europeans do. I mean, we've been hearing that forever, man. So like the brother said previously, man, this is stuff that we've already heard. All of us on this panel, we've heard. And black people, I'm gonna give black people credit. The majority of black people, I think, they've heard all of this mess and they know it's just a bunch of bullshit, but they so preoccupied with just day-to-day living and doing other things where they might not pay attention to it as much. I think that, we should pay attention to it, keep your eyes open. But I mean, we don't need to be going on shows debating with some hunky about our criminality. You know what I'm saying? When, like Bonner said, we got work to do. We need to be doing other stuff. I'm saying, why they talking about this shit? We need to be doing our thing and getting ourselves together, taking care of our communities, making our communities better. You know what I'm saying? Running the bullshit out that's in our communities. You know what I'm saying? And not because of what they say about us or what they think about us just having pride, in ourselves as black people, as African people, man. We do take care of ourselves. But yeah, if you listen at that, it's just like, you listen at social media, man, and you'll hear so much anti-black stuff against all black people. You know what I'm saying? Regardless, I ain't not just the diaspora wars, but all kind of shit. And it could just get on your nerves, man. It could run you crazy if you let it. But I'm just like, no, man, we got other things to do, man. Yeah, we know for our people who love to go on those programs and debate with them, with these talking heads, because the brother did a good job of debunking all that shit. I remember I think somebody mentioned about William Shockley, when he had the debate with Dr. Wells, and she just totally destroyed that whole bell curve thing completely, where the man had to shut his motherfucking mouth. He couldn't even say nothing. No, he was so humiliated. Like, what I'm saying, we know what time it is, man. I think our main thing we need to focus on is getting ourselves together and getting where we need to be at. You know what I'm saying? And like I say, let our people who want to go and debate and do that, who want to, they could do that. Go ahead. Hey, I'm not hating on them, but I'm just saying I think we got too many other fish to fry. You know what I'm saying? Right? Not only black people here, but black people everywhere. We got to get our thing together. And no, I land my plane right there, man. But yeah, it's funny though, man. To hear this shit, especially from a criminal calling other people's criminals. I land right there.
Good stuff as always, Anthony. KW Don 7 in the chat says Charlie Kirk is a Zionist, white nationalist propagandist who did not even graduate community college. Trigger Happy 262 plus says it's always projection. When these white folks are talking, it's always projection. With that said, let me hear from Jackadero. Jackadero, what's it?
What a piece of shit Charlie Kirk is, but he's among many pieces of shit, though. There is, for some odd reason, and maybe it's because they see that college campuses across the U.S. have been a lot more vocal with socio and political topics at hand. So, and we've seen this with the encampments of protests on Israeli occupation in Gaza. So maybe that's why we're seeing more of pieces of shit like Charlie Kirk. Before we get into the answer for I only debate my equals, Buana was like saying that, should we even pay them any mind? I think it comes down to the individual. I'm on X, I'm on TikTok just like anybody else. And yeah, whenever you come across, especially a lie, why not correct it? At least have your input, because especially if you have the truth, why not? And this brother Garrison, I believe, is what you guys had, I think Kofi had put his name as. Why not go at him? Because at the end of the day, if
Garrison Hayes, sorry.
Yeah.
Garrison Hayes.
Yeah, Garrison Hayes, why not? And I applaud Garrison Hayes for doing that. I want to bring up, whether they're Israeli or not, just any Jew will come across any negative connotation about Jews, especially on social media, and they'll be quick to either correct them or just label them anti-Semitic. I think that's what we need to be doing as well. Are you Afrophobic? And then just challenge it and meet them face on. I like fighting fire with fire. Maybe it's the lure in me. Just what a piece of shit. I would love to see if these two ever go at it, Garrison Hayes and Charlie Kirk, because I would love to see him, Charlie Kirk. I would love to hear his remark on, if we're that violent, how come we're exonerated more than half the time? That's huge. I want people to understand that, for whatever the number is on Black people getting incarcerated for murders, being exonerated, that just means that people are either A, there is an agenda, which we all know that there is an agenda, and then to be exonerated, it's like, damn. So the same people that you're locking up and saying you're guilty for this, you're not guilty for. That's huge. So yes, especially if it's an illegal matter, people are challenging and saying, hey, let's look back at this case. Because some of these cases will go back 20 years and say, hey, we don't believe that this person is guilty. And then prove in the same court they're not guilty. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Challenge that. So I'm with it. Cool. John Henry Clark said, I only debate my equals and all others I teach. Sure. But when you come across false information that you can disprove, go for it. Go all in, because they're going all in. Remember, when you're not going all in, somebody else is going all in. And I think that there's a famous saying, I'm not sure on who said it, but it's when you're not teaching your children, guarantee somebody else is. Shout out to Garrison Hayes.
Well stated, Jacadero. That's exactly where my mindset is. You got to call it out. And to go back to Dr. Clark's statement, what I think this brother on the screen right now, what I think he's doing is teaching. He's not debating, he's teaching. And I think that's important. See, we might know what's going on. Maybe our children know what's going on, but I talk to my kids, and a lot of kids are not they're not coming up in conscious households. They don't know. You know what I mean? So Charlie Kirk, like to use Brother Bakari's term, he could be outworking you. Him alone could be outworking a group of Black folks who was just sitting by saying, whatever. They've talked about this for how long? Nah, we got to be active. With that said, let me go to, I guess I'll take me to Black Steel. Last but not least, sir. Black Steel, what are your thoughts on all of it?
So I believe that we should challenge these type of ideas, but I want to bring some things to everybody's attention. So as of right now, we're currently living in a renaissance, at least in the United States, we're living in a renaissance of white supremacy, right? White people the white majority are feeling empowered to fully express their racism. So what I believe is that these attempts to show Black people as inherently criminal is justification for our elimination. Excuse me. So they're trying to manufacture consent to basically arrest large numbers of Black people even kill large numbers of Black people. In the case of if a natural disaster were to happen in a majority Black area, right, they would be able to justify the federal government's inaction based on the criminality of the Black people. It's similar to what they did in Hurricane Katrina. So what I think that what is happening, just as previously in history, before you make efforts to either ethnically cleanse or massacre a group of people, you have to dehumanize them first, right? So that is what people like Charlie Kirk and all these other, you're starting to hear a lot more about how Black people are inherently criminal, Black people are dangerous, their neighborhoods aren't safe. We can all see what's going on in Washington, D.C. When President Trump puts the D.C. police under federal control and he goes around arresting people, then posting the mud shots online. Now, for anyone who's not familiar with the legal case, just because you're arrested doesn't mean you're guilty, right? You have the presumption of innocence until proven guilty. But the president of the United States is literally posting mugshots and it's mainly Black people showing how we're trying to clean up, DC. And this is what his base wants. He's feeding them the red meat that they want to eat, right? Because he's tough on crime, right? And whenever a Black person is killed by the police, then his criminal record is brought up. So what these people like Charlie Kirk and these other white pundits are doing, they're setting the stage for an attack on Black people, a mass attack on Black people, be it a natural disaster or be it, we're gonna get crime under control. He took over DC. That was a testing ground. New York is next. LA is next. Chicago is next. So you have several cities with large Black populations that the federal government wants to take over. And to justify that, look at how criminal. They're 13% of the population. They commit 50% of the murders and all this other stuff. This is just justification for the American public to look the other way when they begin their mass assault on Black people. All right, these are just my thoughts on it. I think that they're just getting ready to justify that, in my opinion. So those are my thoughts. I'll leave it there. Thanks, Coco.
That's good stuff. In the chat, KW17 says Myron Gaines from the Fresh and Fruity podcast, Fresh and Fit podcast, is doing the same grift as Charlie Kirk. Are there any last thoughts here? Anything you heard someone say you want to address? Now is the time. Okay, seems like we don't have any follow-ups.
Quick, Coco, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Yeah, quickly, because I want to address some of the things that Black Steel said. Yes, the president of the United States is going after Black people. That is an absolute fact. In fact, I personally believe that he wants to put military troops on the ground in every city that is run by a Black mayor. I think that he mentioned several different states. And unfortunately, we living in a time where facts don't matter. Feelings is taking the precedent over facts. Because the fact is, when you look at the highest crime rates and highest homicide rates in different American cities, Washington, D.C. is nowhere close. They're nowhere close. Really and truly, if you look at some of the top cities that have the highest crime rates, they're Republican-led states. And people know this, but they decide to say, well, feelings over facts. Since Washington, D.C. is chocolate city, we're going to be heavy-handed in Washington, D.C. But my question is, if you say that you are going to take over Washington, D.C., quote unquote, currently right now, the population of Washington, D.C. is 700,000 people. The policemen in Washington, D.C. number 3,200 officers. The president has sent 800, what do you call it now? What's the name for these people? I forget the name for these people. The military people. I can't remember.
The National Guard.
National Guard, 800. So that represents 4,000 policing forces inside of Washington, D.C. to police 700,000 people. Do you think 4,000 people, which is not even 10% of the population of Washington, D.C., can police 700,000 people. It is a show. This is entertainment. This is entertainment. And I understand the reality is uh, the play, the acting means more than the actual facts itself. So we can stage something to make it look like we tough on crime when we actually ain't getting rid of no crime at all. And if you really want to stop criminal activity, why not go to the states that have the largest proportions of criminal activity going on? In particular, in Republican-led states, it makes no sense at all. But it makes sense to the mind of the white supremacist who wants to see the big stick on the backs of black bodies, and that's unfortunate. But this is just play acting. It really is play acting, but it is a prelude to events to come. Brother Bakari, when he was making statements that the president wants to harm black people, he is unfortunately exactly right. He's exactly right. But that's all I really wanted to say on it.
All right, thank you for that, Buana. If there's no last thoughts, we'll just go to Shoot the Breeze topic number 2. Shoot the Breeze topic number 2 says, let me load it up. Shoot the Breeze topic number 2 says, African culture, African spirituality, cannot be preserved or protected with no strong defense mechanism. There has to be a push for power, or else. This takes us to Instagram. Make sure you guys can see what I'm seeing. Yep. Takes us to Instagram. We'll play it. This should be a short or a reel. We'll play it and then we'll discuss.
Joined his ancestors. This king was loved by his people and he slept at a ripe age of 91. So normally his demise should have been cause for celebration. But unfortunately, what should have led to celebration has given birth to heated controversies. I am talking, of course, about the late Awujale of Ijebuland, Oba Sikiru Adetono Ogbagba II. Before he left this world, he established a strong structure that ensured that he be buried Islamically and not in accordance with the Yoruba tradition that made him king. And that was exactly what happened after he joined his ancestors. Now I avoid commenting on controversial matters, especially of this nature, because I'm just a child and I'm careful to not be too eager to comment on matters which may be beyond me. But if I claim to use this platform for the advancement of the Yoruba people, but then refuse to talk about certain practices that weaken the strength of our traditions, then what exactly do we talk about? So here is my take on the matter. What the Awujale did is betrayal, and a very painful one. Not just betrayal, but an insult. An insult not only to the Ijebu people, but to Yoruba land in general. And the reason we are pointing this out is for the remaining kings and the upcoming ones to listen and to know that this is not a practice worthy of emulation. Is being buried Islamically a wrong thing? Only a fanatic would claim that. But you were an Awujale, a supreme head of a Yoruba space. You were the spiritual leader of a people who identified as devotees of the Orisha. You cannot uphold the gospel of Jesus or the tenets of Muhammad on a throne founded by Ogun or Shango and what have you. You were called Alashe Ikeji Orisha, not Ekeji Anobi. You were made Kabiesi in accordance with Isheshe over a people who still observed festivals like Agemo, Egungun, what have you. So you knew what was involved. When you went to Ipebi, it wasn't the Quran that was read to your ears. Every of the trainings you received were in accordance with Ifa and the Odu. So you knew exactly what you were getting yourself into. So why did you choose to agree to it, only to betray your people eventually? Before you were made king, if you had revealed your intention to not be buried as a Yoruba king, would you have been made king? That means you knowingly deceived your people. And even according to your religion, that is a sin. In the Bible, we read that they tried to make Jesus Christ king. But what did he do? He ran away because he knew that water and oil can never mix. This matter is not hard at all. There are many people who are being buried in accordance with their religion, and nobody is shouting about it. If a pastor dies and is buried like a Christian, nobody will disturb the quorum. It becomes a problem when the pastor had said, "When I die, please bury me like a Muslim." Then the Christians would ask, why then did we respect you as our leader when you did not want to be buried in accordance with our religion? That is exactly the case with the Awujale. So this is not really about religion. It is about being given the title of a kite, but failing to hunt a fowl. This is about traditional leaders endangering the age-long traditions of their own people. It is a colossal problem when a traditional leader becomes ashamed of the traditions that made him relevant. You were made Kabiyesi based on the Yoruba tradition, not Islam. Your people revered you. They honored you and called you Kabiyesi, not because you were a sheikh, but because you were their own Kabiyesi. If you so badly wanted to live and die as a Muslim, is it not disgraceful that you embraced the benefits of your position and disregarded your duties? If you are not proud of something, why associate with it at all? Why do you bring close to your nose what you don't want to taste? The Yoruba monarchical system is fast becoming a joke. And if we are not careful, in the coming years, we may become more laughable than jesters. Washiri. Recently, the monarch of a major group within the Yoruba.
So recently I was clipping up some past Shoot the Breeze episodes, like episodes 191 and stuff like that. And there was a conversation. Kofi was actually kind of part of that conversation. I think I heard a similar conversation recently again, too, with Wana and them. But this kind of reminds me of the pro-black person who is sleeping or married to a white person. You mean to tell me you are the leader of this African spirituality, right? You are the leader of I guess, Yoruba in the region where you live. But you also practice, I've heard Africans from the continent talk about they have their spirituality and then they have their religion. So, like in terms of marriages, you could have your tribal marriage, but then you'll have the church or mosque marriage after. So I've heard about this before, this duality thing that they do. But you're the leader of a faith, and upon your death or while you're dying, you make the decision that you want to be buried according to Islam. Then what does that say to people who listen to you, who follow your teachings in Yoruba? What does that say about your own belief in the faith, in your own African spirituality? That stuff is tough for me to deal with, man. It's tough for me, just to tie it back to the other thing. It's tough for me to see a guy who's talking pro-blackity black, and then when your woman shows up, it's some spoiled milk white woman. Like, that's a tough one for me. But I'll get off of my podium. I'll throw it to Brother Anthony McPhail first. Anthony, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, that's I'm pretty much along the same line that you are, Brother Coco. I'm like, that was an interesting video, man. I damn near wanted to look at it and see it again. But I'll start right here. The first thing I'm gonna say is, when we talk about our African traditional belief system, we talk about our African culture. Okay, our belief system and culture, as if they were two different things. No, they're not two different things. They are the same. They're connected. Your culture, your belief system is part of your culture. You know what I'm saying? It's part of your culture. It's what make you you. It's Iwapele that makes Yoruba people Yoruba. That's what makes them them. It's not, you converting, you being a Christian or you being a Muslim does not make you who you are, because that ain't you. That didn't come from you. You know what I'm saying? It didn't come from you. I mean, I mean, you know, your culture and your heritage, your culture and your belief system that you have from the dirt, from the beginning, is what make you you. What makes Haitian Haitian Africans, what make them Haitian is because of their belief system and their culture that they have in Haiti. You know what I'm saying? I mean, what makes our people in Jamaica and so on, in Guyana and in Suriname, you know, that what they brought with them is what make them who they is. Now, when we got here, you know, we had to conform, you know, to this other mess. You know what I'm saying? I mean, on pain, and usually on pain of death. No, I mean, we had to learn a new language. We had to learn a new a religion. You know what I'm saying? We had to adopt all kinds of stuff, ways of communicating with each other. And a lot of times we hid it. We hid it. You know, like our African people in Haiti hid it, you know, through Roman Catholicism. You know, Africans here in America, the USA, we hid it through Christianity. And all over, in all the places, Africans in Suriname, they had to hide it a certain way. In Guyana, you know, vice versa. I mean, we all had to hide it, but a lot of us, but we maintained it, and that's what made us who we are today. You know, because we hang on to it. But when we let go of it, and we totally just started demonizing our own traditions, you know what I'm saying, calling it witchcraft and calling it all kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying, and we promote Islam and Christianity and Judaism because they got Igbo people. They have our Igbo people in Nigeria. You got some of them claiming that they Hebrew Israelites now. You know, when I first heard it, I said I thought these Negroes in New York City was the only ones saying that shit. You know what I'm saying? But they have brothers and sisters in Nigeria. You know, talking about the Igbos and being Hebrew Israelites and from the tribes of Israel. You know, the Limba people in Southern Africa. Talking about we Israelites and
they got them in Guyana too, Anthony. They got them in Guyana too.
Yeah, man, it's ridiculous, man. And I keep going back. I know we talked one time, like a lot of brothers. I was having a talk with a brother on IG. He did a live show when I joined this panel, and he's a Muslim brother, and he always alhamdulillah and all, you know, everything like that. And I respect you, man. You know, you have your belief system. That's cool. I'm not dissing you for being a Muslim or a Christian, but what I had a problem when you start criticizing our belief system, where we come from. You know what I'm saying? Our traditional belief system. And so the brother he was talking about, we got on the subject of Sunday Adakita. You know what I'm saying? In the emperors, in the Mali Empire, the emperor, and Gunga Musa and them and all of them. And I was just like, we was talking, and I'm listening at the brother the way. I mean, I say, brother, you almost kind of remind me of like a crusader in a way. You know how these Europeans called themselves crusaders in the 11th century, you know, went to Palestine and, you know, and massacred everybody in the name of Christianity. You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying, you brothers, I mean, it's like y'all do it the same way, man, you know, like the way y'all attack African traditions and everything. You know, I'm like, I was saying, don't you know, Sunday Adakita and all those guys, yeah, he was a great man. He did a lot of great things. You know, if you're a Mandinka person, you know, you're talking about the history of your people and of your nation. But I'm saying, but you got to look at it. He was on the wrong side of our history. You know, he was on the right side of history, but the wrong side of our history. You know what I'm saying? He was the enemy. He was stepping out. What he was doing was anti-African, anti-blackness, anti-us. You know, he wanted to step out what we believed in. You know, so I told him that Samora Kunti, who he was fighting against, the great battle they fought, you know, it was a battle between Islam and African traditional belief system, African culture. I say Sunday Adakita was on the wrong side. The hero was Samora Kunti. You know what I'm saying? And you can see that throughout all over. You can see it in the movement that our great ancestor Sister Nihanda Chawe Nayaka Sakana had led in the first Chimaringa in Zimbabwe, or what Kempavita did in Bakongo. You know what I'm saying? Well, she wanted to return to our traditional values. Well, guess what? These Africans who had converted to Catholicism, they said, "No, you wrong, and we got to deal with you, and we gonna put you on a bundle and roast you alive and burn at the stake." You know what I'm saying? Because she had been in Christianity and seen it for what it was, and seen what it was, and said, "No, the hell with this here. I'm going back to where we started from, to us." You know what I'm saying? And they didn't want to see that. So I'm just like, when I hear stuff like this, I'm just like, no, man. I mean, it's really frustrating because, like, let me tell you a quick thing. Okay, like I was saying, how we had to, under duress, Africans in this part of the world. I mean, not just here in the USA, but all over the hemisphere, the Caribbean, whatever. Because don't you know, just recently they still got a law, and the white folks really gone. No, they don't have the presence like they had at one time, direct rule in Jamaica and parts of the Caribbean. But you got Negroes around there now like homeless and everything, trying to, still demonizing Obia. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they still got laws against Obia. You know what I'm saying? In other African, they had those kind of laws in some of the governments in Haiti against African spirit voodoo. You know what I'm saying? Where they was killing people, or where they was demonizing people. Or ostracizing them. And you can see it everywhere. So we had to go and hide it through certain ways. You know what I'm saying? I was talking to a brother and a sister, man, here. And we was talking about how, we were discussing that very thing. And I was telling them how, because they came up with the conversation, like I ain't African, but they were saying, yeah, I'm African from a long time ago. Yeah, my ancestors. But, we black people, we black Americans, we here now, we here, this is where we from. And, when they talk about our culture and everything, and, some of these brothers and sisters don't know what the foundation of their culture is. They think that because, jazz and soul and all kind of stuff, genres that we came up with that we just came up with this out of the blue. I say, no, you had a foundation of this. And so we was talking about the spirituality. I say, look at this here. And I showed them. I say, look here. Now, especially in the southern United States, I know y'all probably can't relate to it, but probably blacks still probably can a little bit because, they did it in Florida too. But like, when we have riverside baptisms, you know what I'm saying? We go down there, everybody dressed in white. And we go down to the river, this baptism is introducing this person into the community. Okay. I said, now you look at it, then I showed them a video of the Oshun Festival in Nigeria. The Oshun Festival going on now. I showed them. I said, man, this ain't nothing but Oshun. You know what I'm saying? We covered it, we cloaked it in Christianity. Because what's Oshun? You got new devotees going down. We celebrate Oshun, and they being introduced into the community. It's the same thing. Well, when we was in Nigeria at that time, we said Olodumare, and we talk about the Orishas. Well, what we did when we got here, God, Jehovah, okay, the Great Father, whatever, and the angels became the Orishas. You know what I'm saying? So I had to break things down to them, and they didn't know it, and they looked at it for a minute, and like, even though they probably still scratch their head, like, hey, no, but I had them thinking. You know what I'm saying? I had them thinking, and that's what we got to do to our people, man. We got to remind them of who they are. A lot of our people, I mean, it's been so long that they just don't know. They don't forget. The memory been erased out, and we got to show them. We got to remind them of who we are, because we don't forget who we are a lot of time, and not just Africans here, but Africans everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Hell, even on the continent. Like I said, on the continent, I mean, it's like. It was this brother from Haiti. He's dead now. He's an ancestor now. Dr. Max Beauvoir. He was like one of the leading Haitian voodooists, in Haiti, and in the world, man. And like Africans on the continent, when they went to Haiti, they had to go to him. I'm talking about Africans from Benin, because what they had lost and what those Africans from Haiti had brought, they brought something that was 400 years old. They had the practice the way it was hundreds of years ago. And things that now that a lot of our people have lost. So the Africans on the continent had to go to Haiti to learn some of the old stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, it's just I think at the end of the day, it's memory, man. It's memory. It's our memory. We got to remember where we came from, and our way of protecting it is that we got to teach our children. We got to teach our young people. We got to let them understand. We got to break it down to them that no, man, this ain't no demonic stuff. Man, this ain't demonic. This is us. You see, and the reason why we act the way we act, that's why right now you got Negroes running around there talking about Hebrew Israelites and Moors and all this stupid ass shit. You know what I'm saying? Talking about I'm this, I'm that. I'm a Native American, I'm a black Aboriginal, because see, these fools have lost their goddamn man. And I was one of we was all some Negro fools. We lost our goddamn man, don't know where we at. Like Dr. Clark said, we outside of our cultural incubator for so long, you know what I'm saying, divorced from our culture, our language and customs. No, damn, we got to come up with some new shit. You know what I'm saying? And we don't know who we are. But we just got to, it's the memory, man. We gotta do our job. Like we gotta not let Christianity, Islam, and I'm not just picking on them, but other belief systems, whatever it is, political, philosophical, we can't let them outwork us and continuing the brainwashing of our people. We gotta do it. You know what I'm saying? We gotta teach them. We gotta show them. You gotta show them that this ain't bad. You know, that this is all right, man, that this is us. And this is what makes us us. There's a reason why black people in America got that soul. There's a reason why black people in Nigeria, you know, in Liberia and Mali or wherever got that soul, man. You know, and in South America, Central, it's a reason why we get that soul and why we come up with all these musical genres and things that the world is go crazy behind. You know what I'm saying? It's a reason for that, because that comes from the root. That come from Africa. That come from where we come from. That's our original stuff. You know what I'm saying? And that's what makes us us. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to go too long, man. I'll leave it right there.
You know, Anthony, the funny thing is, we still have that in the Bahamas, when I was young, I
just want to say that.
Yeah, when I was young, I get baptized. And to get baptized, you go to the ocean. And everybody dressed in white with the hair covered and stuff like that, right? And that now that you like make that kind of connection, it's like you go into the spirit of ocean and getting submerged in the water. But because of memory, the brother talked about memory, we don't remember that. So we attach it to Christianity, but it's a practice that extends beyond Christianity. That's funny. I just thought it was funny.
Yeah, that was good stuff, Anthony. Let me hear from Kofi next on this one. Kofi, what say it?
Yeah, this is very good. Anthony said something and it totally knocked out everything else what I wanted to say. And I know he just laid down a correlation even if he didn't do that. So I was gonna start off. So this is something that's not surprising to me. The Africans that I do know, they're Christian. Not a lot of them are Muslim, where I have a relationship where I could feel not, getting in their business as far as like the religion. But the one, I think I told this story before, the one African guy that I know that's very cool, right? He's a vendor out there in Jamaica, Queens. He sells his oils and stuff like that. He's from Senegal, so he's Wolof, right? And I met him around the time of Ramadan, and he's always dressed in his African clothing. But this time, during the time of Ramadan, he's always dressed in his African clothing. He's not wearing westernized clothing or anything. And, he's real big on it. And, I'll say, I need to find an ask him up. I'm asking him, trying to work my way in, ask him about Islam and yada, yada, yada. And one day he was like, there was this girl walk by. You see that girl walk by? I was like, yeah, she's from my country, but she's not dressed how she's supposed to dress. It's Ramadan. She's wearing these westernized clothing. So I didn't say nothing. She came back around and he caught her attention. He's like, yeah, he started chastising her. And she's like, yeah, but I didn't have time. You didn't eat nothing, did you? And she's like, no, I didn't. But so he's very, very a proud African man, but his Islamness to me was bigger than his Africanness. So I asked him a question. I said, what do you consider yourself more of first? An African, a Wolof man, or a Islamic man? He looked at me like I was bleeding rainbows out my eyes. And he couldn't really give me an answer. And I'm like, I didn't tell him, because he's very proud of his religion. But he was like, he didn't give me a straight answer. And I'm like, that is the problem. And it reminds me of this clip that you played. And the thing I'm getting to what Anthony said, and I realized that, In Africa, they were colonized. So the missionaries went there and everything. You got your Desmond Tutu. And I always wonder, like, why Desmond Tutu understand what's going on in Africa, you know, when he says, hey, when we came to Africa, we had the land and they had the Bible and they gave us a Bible. And when we looked up, they had the land and we had the Bible. So Desmond Tutu, he knows all these things, but he's still a Christian. And I'm like, and I never really understood that. But it seems like in Africa, since they were just colonized, they are able to pick and choose. The white man's not forcing them one thing or the other. You know what I'm saying? It was really about that. You know, they kind of got the land already. They got the resources. They kind of got what they want. Let that be the ministers and the missionaries' point. But in America, where we are in the so-called new world, we have to make a choice. There's not, well, I'm going to practice Ifa and be a Muslim. I'm a Yoruba man, but I'm going to be a Christian or Muslim. It's like, no, you have to pick. And especially me growing up and family, very proud Christians, you know, even up to this day, they're just die-hard Christians. And my mother, due to my mother, my great-grandmother, die-hard Christians. One thing growing up I never understood, though, and Anthony said something about Obia. So if something goes wrong, because I was like non-denominational, but was more like Baptist in a kind of way, right? And, you know, I was a born again Christian 2-3 times, you know, all you got to say is the Lord's Prayer and other Christian things that they tell you to say. And so you just say, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus, all that stuff. But my mother would say things as a child I didn't understand, even not until I come into consciousness, I knew what it was. And I guess it's something that they say. So if something's wrong with you, she couldn't figure out. She's like, "Bye, what's wrong with you? Someone put Obi upon you?" I'm like, what? I said, is that a Guyanese thing? Like, what is Obia? Is this a Guyanese thing? I'm like, 11, 12, 14. I don't know what Obia is. You know what I'm saying? But we know what it is, but we demonize it. We know what it is, but we demonize it. Same thing. And something's wrong with you, and instead of saying, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus, or saying, it's something like they kind of like poke fun at. They'll say like, oh, like spirit jumping you or something, like you need to throw some water on you. And I'm like, what is, you baptize me again? What is throwing water on me gonna do? Again, this is me not knowing, but they know. But it's demonized if you make a choice of doing African spirituality. Same thing. People from the Caribbean, we know what Jumbi is. It's like, oh, look, Jumbi, right? Jumbi is a West African spiritual being that is like, he's like a protector. But what do? We turn Jumbi into something to be afraid of. You're supposed to be running to the Jumbi. You're not supposed to be scared of the Jumbi. But growing up, me not knowing what, I think it's just something that, we just made up. Not until I got to be like an adult into what is being an African is, I realized, wow, all the things they demonize is who we are. You know what I'm saying? So it's just amazing. So I think in America, in the so-called new world, we have to make a decision versus Africa, they don't. And to me, that is extremely problematic because you don't know what type of person who you're dealing with. And Anthony said, again, it's all the same thing. It's not one or the other. You know what I'm saying? Your spiritual system is a part of your culture. It's a part of your culture. It's not nothing else. So when I was saying not all Africans, no way you can know all Africans, but when I meet an African brother or sister, I have to have these conversations because I need to know where their mind is at. Who am I talking to? Am I talking to a Hausa man and a Muslim? Or like, you have to navigate who they are because you don't know what mindset they're operating in. And this is what colonization did. Colonization did. All it did was to really screw our people over. So it's mental warfare, spiritual warfare, it's cultural warfare. Because if a Muslim comes to you in Muslim Brotherhood, you're going to give them concessions, right? Again, I said again, Christians, Muslims never, ever, ever came into Africa not knowing anything, guns blazing. It was always a mental, cultural warfare. Then they attacked us. That's how it was. And I think, Coco, I'm not sure if you. Oh, one other thing. Only thing difference in Brazil in Brazil and Santeria. If you look at Santeria, all the saints like Saint Michael, Saint Peter, and all them, they will replace them with the Orishas. So in Santeria, they kind of do something similar to what the Africans would do, you know. But as far as like anywhere else, like outside of Santeria in the New World, no, it's either you believe in Vodum or the Orishas, or you're a Christian. That's it. And I'll land this right here. So I'm not sure. I don't know if I missed it one weekend, but if any of you seen Sinners, it gives you, there's this music montage that shows you the evolution of African music, from like the Doggone People all the way to Run DMC to current day. And it's beautiful. I don't know if I missed it. I think you should do that. That'll be something beautiful to unpack. But I'll end it right there.
Appreciate that, Kobe. Yeah, we were supposed to do that, but a lot of things was going on, still kind of going on. So I have not gotten to it, but it's in due time. I think we'll get to it. It'll probably hit better after the movie has been out on streaming for a little while. Afro-Native World Chat mentioned that Cuba is where you find Santeria. He says that it's Brazil where you find Candomblé, not Santeria. Sister Raw is here with us this week. She says all those religions come out of war and conquest. Trigger tells me there's another video. He says there's a second video with the prompt that deals with Somalis losing their names to Arab names. All right, so as I get someone else to speak on it, I'll look for that. I didn't see it at the time, but Afro-Native World reminds us, happy early Papa Gavi birthday to all fellow Gavias. Yeah, we won't be on, I think, when it's the birthday. But with all that said, let me hear from Jacadero next. Jacadero, what's it?
Yeah, really interesting. I did not know about this Yoruba elder. If he was living a life that he wanted to be remembered as a Yoruba elder, but then be buried as a Christian, that's pretty ironic. For those that don't know, I come from the Luo community, the Luo tribe in Kenya, a proud Luo. And one of our Luo elders in 2023, Mr. Magoha, Mzee Magoha, Professor George Magoha, he was a cabinet secretary, meaning that he was a part of the cabinet for William Ruto's cabinet. And he was a Luo that when he passed away, by the way, this guy's resume was deep. When I say deep, this guy had a deep resume long, boy, resume long. He was, man, not just a professor. He was the head of a hospital. I mean, just any pinnacles of socio and political status, he was on it. So George Magoha had passed away back in 2023. And in the Luo culture, post-colonial and pre-colonial, for a Luo of that stature, there would be a Luo tradition would be performed as a ritual rite for burial. And his village disagreed with it. Imagine that. Let me rephrase that. His village was with it, and the Luo Council of Elders were with it, but other Luo elders, Raila Odinga being one of them, which was really interesting, was against the ritual called Tero Buru. And basically it's, you know, you guys aren't Luo, but I'll give you guys a little bit of insight. It's one of the ritual rites is like to have, I believe, cattle. I don't know if it has to be male cattle or female cattle, but cattle nonetheless have to go into the house and walk around several times to chase out bad spirits, etc., etc. And they were against it because he lived as a Christian man. You know, very, very unfortunate because, again, we didn't, at least I don't know. I asked my dad, like, did he want this? Did he want to be buried as a Christian, or did he want the Luo traditional rites of passage for death to be placed upon his body afterwards? And I don't know, but nonetheless, very unfortunate. For those that don't know, I grew up as a Muslim. My stepfather was a Muslim man, and I grew up as a Muslim. I left Islam back in 2017 to 2018, and I left for a lot of reasons. One of the main reasons was that it's because it's Arab nationalism. It took a lot. I'm just going to be candid with you guys. It took a lot for me to leave Islam, just because the core tenets of Islam really shaped my life, and there wasn't anything negative of what I was seeing. But it just got to a point where I was like, how can I go to Mecca? How can instead of going to Africa as one of the things that I must do to complete one half, because there's two halves of a full Muslim. It's one is being married. Being married is completing one half of your Muslim duty on earth, and then the other half is to going to Mecca. And I continued to question myself, how can us as Africans, we are the first people on earth, right? Right? I mean, we found human remains in Ethiopia, in Rift Valley. And how come we don't get the distinguished honor of being the place that everybody needs to come to before they die? But I have to go to the Mideast. Why is the Mideast so focused? Well, the Mideast is so focused because we're in a Euro Judaic Christian living world in the West, and I had a big issue with that. I still have a big issue with that. Was one of the many reasons. The other one is that, the best language to speak is because the Prophet Muhammad was Arab speaking man. So to speak Arabic was the best language that you could speak. It wouldn't be Luo. I know Luos get the stigma that we are very cocky and very arrogant. But no, why can I not speak Luo? Why can't that be the best language to learn, the best language to speak, the best language to conduct business? There's a lot of reasons on why Africans alike on a large mass in Africa, don't ascribe to African spiritual systems of their own communities. And one of them is that, Christianity and Islam, it rains. How does it rain? Let's take a look at health. How many voodoo societies have built hospitals that you guys are aware of? Maybe there are out there, but that you guys are aware of, that are well funded. Okay? We have voodoo practitioners all over the world. How many of those? Schools. How many schools have been funded by Yoruba, Luo, Dinka, Ifa? How many of those are focused or central based from an African spiritual context? So when one leaves the school, instead of knowing about the 10 Commandments or the 5 pillars of Islam, how many of them know about the Orishas, the Luas, whatever, even Tero Buru? There's a typical Luo kid growing up in Nairobi, the capital city of Kenya. He doesn't even know what Tero Buru is. He doesn't even know what the rites of passage of Tero Buru is. So that's education. And then next, the economy. How many economies in Africa are ran by spiritual systems and or practitioners of their spiritual systems? So if you're educating somebody to be Christian-minded, Islamic-minded, then when they go out into the real world, how many of those jobs are backed by those spiritual systems? Far and few in between. We kid ourselves with saying, "Oh, I want our next free African nation built by Pan-African by Pan-Africans to be this and that. But if we're going to have an African spiritual system to be the standard for that Pan-African nation, then we got to ask, okay, what are the kids learning and where does this come from? What is the curriculum? And then when they graduate from those schools, what economy is waiting for them? Because, okay, cool. I learned to be like-minded in voodoo as an adolescent. So then when I go out into the real world, I go and I work at a hospital that is named St. Mary's Hospital. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? No, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. So, these are things that are basic, I think. I could be wrong, but I think that these things are basic and these things that, is very capable. It's noted in records that a lot of the times that when colonialism and enslavement was happening in Africa is that it was the children that were colonized first before the parents. So the children were welcome with clothes, food, and anything outside and in between. And the children were converted. And then the children would go back to their parents and say, hey, we got that from this guy that was at the beach. We got this from that building with a cross on it. We got this from the building that does a call of prayer 5 times a day. And then that's what would draw the children in. And then the parents would say, wow, my children or my child is so much in love with who they came across. And they seem to be ready to leave the house each and every single day, each and every single weekend to attend whatever it is that they're doing over there. This seems harmless. I say that to say, it's unfortunate that elder, the Yoruba elder, had that decision. But in my personal journal, you're hearing it first. I've maintained that do not bury me as a Muslim. And these are things that you can do while you're alive to make sure that doesn't happen. But again, we can change this for the better if we are to create a Pan-African state in Africa, and maybe even the satellite African countries that are outside of Africa. They starts at the grassroots of things. So schools, then go into health. Again, how can you say that you're a Yoruba practitioner, a Luo practitioner, and then you're going to a hospital that, bro, after the doctor is done doing surgery on you, praise Jesus Christ. Come on, really think about this. That is my time.
That was good stuff, right? Good stuff. Trigger Happy 262 in the chat was giving you the fire emoji. Said you were cooking. I agree. Trigger in the chat says, basically, Jacadero, spirituality, talking about African spirituality, is supposed to permeate government and economy like we did in the past. Now we have Islamic and Christian governments. He goes on to say, John Henry Clark mentioned before that it would be game changer when an African leader practices African spirituality unapologetically. So I have the second part of the prompt, the second attachment. I have it, but what I'm going to do is, since everyone kind of responded to this video on the screen first, I'm going to let everyone respond to it first, then I'll play the Somalian video and we can do a quick response to that as well. That was Jacadero. I had Kofi before. I guess let me go to Oni this time. Oni, what say you?
I like what was being stated. We have to remember that if we're not doing anything economically, right, we're technically not doing anything. I think fundamentally, we as a people are, or all people are economic. Trigger Happy just quoted John Henry Clark saying that be a game changer when an African leader practices African spirituality unapologetically, right? Here's the thing. I don't know that much about this this monarch. Sounds like he was practicing African spirituality. Sounds like he surprised everybody by being buried as a Muslim. But throughout his life, he wasn't necessarily. I mean, I don't know if he was practicing Islam, but if he was practicing Islam, I don't know why anybody would be surprised that he gets buried as a Muslim. So it seems like maybe he wasn't practicing Islam, or he was practicing Islam, but like quietly behind closed doors. All the same, you know, that kind of tells you that, you know, why in the world would somebody in his position, right, still practice Islam? You know what I mean? Like, I understand if you know, somebody, you know, broke is practicing Islam. I understand that. If somebody broke is practicing Christianity, I understand that. But if you like for instance, I understand if you know, you come to America, you know, you find some random white boy and he gonna tell you, yeah, man, I'm a Buddhist. You know, you're like, that makes sense, right? You know, he's a Buddhist. Okay, you're broke, you're a Buddhist, makes sense, right? Nothing against Buddhists. I'm just saying it's not something you see in America, right? Either way, if you now all of a sudden go to some rich ass, you know, some, you know, like the president of the United States, he's like, yeah, I'm a Buddhist. You know, you scratching your head. You know, especially a white person, you scratching your head. Like, why in the world would the leader of a nation, or the leader of a location practice a foreign religion? You know, and I think it comes back to economics. Now, again, I don't know this gentleman, right? Okay, so Trigger Happy saying that he was a Muslim, so it's like, yeah, but like, I don't know the gentleman, but as far as I can tell, this guy was probably well-to-do. You know what I mean? He wasn't a have-not; he was a have. And even with having, he says, "Look, I'm going to go to this foreign religion." Right? Which tells me that, you know, what's going on in the economy that you gonna that you jumping ship. You know what I mean? Because again, if we saw that in America, we'd be like, now, like, you know, I know eggs are pricey, but why are you in the Confucianism? You know what I'm saying? Like, I know eggs is pricey, but why are you doing yoga? You know what I'm saying? Like we would be shocked. Now, again, if you see it in the lower class, you know, that makes sense. You know, like I said, I knew some, you know, Haitian sister, you know, completely displaced. You know what I'm saying? I knew some Haitian sister who was you know, she was a Buddhist or something like that. You know, it makes sense. She's not even in her country. You know what I mean? But if you all of a sudden, you know, it sounds like he's rich. You know, and then he's still going toward the, you know, he's still bending the knee to the Muslim, to the Arab. Something's up, you know. And I say that what that means is that we as a people have to really be serious about getting our shit together. You know what I mean? Because when we don't have our shit together, shit's just not together. You know what I mean? Like I just gotta, like, sometimes you gotta just say it as it is. You know. And so that's pretty much it. I feel like yeah, you know, we can't like we wanna practice our spiritual systems. I get that, right? But I feel like if we're not getting our stuff together, people are not gonna do it. You know what I mean? You know, people are just not gonna do it. People are gonna go for who can get shit done. And as it were, you know, I don't know this place, but like the Muslims are getting stuff done. The Christians are getting stuff done. You know, and this guy is the leader of an African denomination, right? Of the Yoruba, I suppose, right? He's the leader. He's a leader of the Yoruba, and he's like, yo, we can't get shit done. I'm going to Islam. Like that tells you a whole bunch. Like that tells you a whole bunch. That's it.
I appreciate that, Oni. Yeah, while you were talking, even before you were speaking, I was thinking about the fair aspect of this too. In this man's, coming to the end of his life cycle on Earth, he was like, I'm afraid, because we got to also center it around the spiritual too. He was like, I'm afraid of going to this white man's hell. Let me go out adhering to this white man's religion. He didn't fear what it would cost him in terms of his African spirituality. He feared what would cost him in terms of this foreigner's religion. That's another thing we have to address too. And I know
Good
there's
point.
economics behind a large part of that, but at the same time, this is your last go round on Earth. You shouldn't be too worried about the economics of the afterlife. And you are afraid of this white man's hell more than you're afraid of what your ancestors will, or the Arabs' hell, more than you're afraid of what the ancestors will have in store for you. That's an interesting thing too. With that said, man, let me get to Black Steel. Black Steel, what are your thoughts?
A lot of different opinions here. One thing I want to think about is this. We really have to be honest, right, at how much indoctrination and how powerful religion is, and what our goal is. Like, for example, like, is the goal to de-evangelize every African person? I think that's an admirable goal. I don't know if it's possible. But the fact that the man is very upset because he, again, was some sort of high up in the Yoruba religion, and he asked to be buried as a Muslim. I do think, to your point, fear is a part of it. He was probably in some point raised as a Muslim. I have a question as far as African religions and whatnot. I know we say African spirituality, but there's several religions that are traditional African beliefs. Your Ifa and everything else. I'm wondering, how is it possible to be, to have both your traditional African beliefs and belong to a Abrahamic religion, right? And I say that because many of these people who have these African religions, right? Like you mentioned hell, right? I don't believe that any African spiritual system believes in an eternal punishment, right? I don't think that there's anything where you die, you suffer, you burn eternally, or you're tortured by demons. I don't think that's something that is inherent within the traditional religions of Africa. But I do know that in many African, and this is something that I'm curious about. Is the religions in Africa so strict where if you believe this or you do this, your soul is destined to hell? Because sometimes there may be some fluidity within those spiritual systems. So maybe he didn't feel like he was abandoning what he was taught. Maybe there's some fluidity within those religions that would allow him to both honor the Orisha and be a Muslim, right? I guess, sometimes we have it in our mindset it's either or. Many of our ancestors had to convert because of duress. So that's just kind of my question, is to the flexibility of these spiritual systems. Like, again, there's no hell, right, to put someone in. Is Olodumare gonna torture you forever if you bump your head on the floor 5 times a day? I don't know. That's just my curiosity about it. And I, you know, it, and also too, The Abrahamic religious faith are like Trigger Happy said, they don't tolerate, and it says in the Bible, "Thou shalt have no other God before me, for I am a jealous God." I don't hear that out of no any type of African spiritual system where their God is jealous, and I demand complete worship of everybody else and nobody else. And I was reading a book talking about how once the Roman Empire accepted Christianity as an official religion. So for thousands of years, there had been multiple religions practiced within the Roman Empire, and they all pretty much coexisted more or less okay with each other. But once Christianity showed up, there was no more of that practice and other stuff. Everything else had to go. Right? There was no, hey, you know what? We can all go along and get along and be at peace. Nah, that's done. We're not doing that. So I'm just wondering. Those are just my questions about that. So I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Oh, cool. Before you go, Black Steel, you talking about how you're not sure on if African spiritual systems believe or even proclaim an everlasting damnation. On TikTok, there is, on the Christian side of TikTok, there is like a series of, I don't know who it is, but it's a podcaster. He's a pastor, and he goes to people who have had near-death experiences, and they come back and they tell about what they've seen. This is a Black pastor, so he talks to Black Christians, Reformed Christians, born-again Christians, and a common thing that they say is that, one lady's testimony was she had went to hell and she had seen Biggie in hell, and a demon had taken Biggie and put him in a cage, and
Biggie Smalls. Don't tell me that.
She said it's not just Biggie. A number, I've watched a lot of this podcast. If I come to it, if I even feel compelled to like bring it to the chat, I will, and you can watch it for yourself. But he's interviewed several Black near-death experience testimonies, and it's not just Biggie that they see in hell. They see, give me a moment here, Biggie, Michael Jackson. I know. I was like, and I can't remember, but basically Black entertainers. And a couple people in the comments have made also the question, have brought the question. So you're telling me instead of anybody else, Cecil Rhodes, Thomas Jefferson, Richard Nixon, I mean, like, you just name the fucking devil, right? None of these demons that were on Earth, none of them you see in hell. You only see Black people in hell. What kind of shit is this? So I just wanted to add that in there, my guy.
That's fucking hilarious. No, my son's mother, she had an aunt who died some years ago. But before she died, right? She died and they brought her back, and she died and she stayed there for the second time. But when she came back, she told me that she seen heaven and hell, right? And she told me, well, you guys need to get married and stop living in sin. And I was like, she's just trying to get me to marry her niece. Is that what this is? But I'll leave it there.
I think Brother Anthony wanted to add something. Anthony, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you, Goku. All right. First, I'm gonna talk to Black Steel. Then I'm gonna answer his question. Then I'm gonna go to Jacadero. Okay, Black Steel, my brother. First of all, peace and how you doing, bro? And
Doing great, man. Thanks.
Okay, what I want to say. Okay, when you was talking about the religion. Okay, I understand when you say religions. You know, I say spiritual traditional belief systems. You know what I'm saying? Because we don't put our thing in the same category as as what the Europeans and what the Muslims do. You know, say as far as religion. Those organized religions, really, like Dr. Clark said, called them murder cults. You know what I'm saying? Built off all of the stuff that they built out, because they really built off to control people's minds and actions and thoughts. Okay, that's what they for. It's a method of control. Now, African traditional beliefs, you could go all across the continent, you know, and they take on different forms, but they always have, like what Sheikh Andy Job said, a cultural continuity. It's a thing that links them all. You know, what you say, they similar to each other in a way. They different but similar. But okay, our belief systems is not like theirs. Okay, and one of the main things is there's no heaven and hell. When you think, like you said, there's no heaven and hell in in most that I know of. The heaven and hell, because see, in the African traditional belief systems, what you have is a thing called rebirth. Okay, that you are reborn. It's like what they the white folks call it, like a transmigration of the soul. It's reincarnation and stuff like that. Like if you didn't get it right, you come back to do it again. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's basically how. No, I mean, for me to simplify it in that way like that, you know, it's a rebirth. You know, it's a continuous rebirth thing. Okay, you talking about Olodumare. Okay, now in the Ifa and Carl, let me reference you. Get this book. Check this book out right here when you get time. It's some of them, depending on where you get it from, it's kind of a little expensive. Not, you know, like probably $50, but I've seen them for like $28, $30. Get the book Odu Ifa. Get the Odu Ifa, and it'll tell you. It'll tell you about the 250 principles of Ifa, of Iwapele. It'll tell you about the Yoruba traditional belief system about Ifa. It is real good, man. You will learn a lot, and it'll answer a lot of questions for you. So get that book, Odu Ifa. And Odu Ifa is spelled Oduifa, the Odu Ifa. So check that out. It'll be real good for you to check out, man. But okay, Jacadero. Now I know I haven't brushed up on my luau and my Acholi linguistics in a long time, man.
No, what you know about the Acholi? What you know about it, Mike?
But check it out. I mean, but I mostly like refer like I look in a lot of parts of East Africa. No, the creator deity is referred to as Malungu. Okay,
that's one of the names. Yeah, good job.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, in most part. But I know if I might have. I'm trying to see if I still remember the name, because it's a beautiful name. It's a luau name, and I might. If I'm not you, I know you could tell me if I'm right. I think it was Nyaka Sai, the creator.
Yeah. Wow. How do you know this?
One of them. Now, we know I've been studying this for a long time, but I know one of the names in luau was Nyaka Sai, and it's another one, and it would start with a W. Wuhan. I could pronounce it, but I could see it, but I couldn't pronounce it right. And it meant the ancient one.
Yeah,
it was called the ancient one.
Yeah,
I'm not talking not Ma'angamizi, but it was the ancient one. But anyway, like I was saying, since you got out of Islam, out of the Abrahamic religion, you know, do you pray, do you give praise and honor in reverence to Nyaka Sai and to the ancestors? That's one thing I'm sorry, man. I had to mess with you. But hey, lastly, I'm close out. This is what I wanted to say. It was to the other what we saw about. We was talking earlier about the African spirituality. Okay, I would say this to some of the to the Tariq Nasheeds of the world, or the FBA code leaders, the talking points. Okay, when they study so much and they could tell you so much about this and that, about different things and how it doesn't have to do with Africa. This one thing that I know all the brothers from the Caribbean gonna know this. Okay, now here in the USA, during the enslavement of African people here, we had a figure. It was a figure. He was an African. He was an African king or a prince who had been captured in Africa and brought to America. But anyway, he led a rebellion. He was going to lead a rebellion of all the Africans and lead us back to Africa. Okay, he's like a folk hero, and I'm gonna call the name in a minute. Now in the Caribbean, y'all had. I mean, there's some places where they had that same figure by the same name, a similar name, and then they have another figure by also kind of, it's not the exact same name, but it's kind of similar. Okay, in the Caribbean, sometimes he's known as John Canoe. You know that it's John Canoe. It's John Canoe. Okay, in some parts, he's known as John the Conqueror. Dr. Clark used to talk about him, call him High John the Conqueror. You know, it's a root, it's a plant root. It's a plant called High John the Conqueror. Now, if you're familiar with the music, and see, and I'm tying this in to part of what Black Steel was talking about the demonization of us, and how the lady said she went to hell and she seen Biggie. Okay, remember, black music, other than Christian music, like the blues and jazz and all that, it was considered what? The devil's music. That's what they call it, devil's music. So if you're playing that, you're playing the devil's music. So that's why when they say they have a life experience like that and they go to hell and a lot of times they see entertainers. You see Michael Jackson, because they were playing that devil's music, so they went to hell. Okay. If you remember, Muddy Waters had a song. It wasn't the Mojo song, but he had a song where he referenced this individual, this African king and prince. His name that he called it was John Conqueror. You remember? I wish Bakari was here. But he said John, I'm gonna look up the song and send it to Koku later on tonight or tomorrow. It was called John Conqueror. So you had John Conqueror in that song. You had High John the Conqueror that Dr. John Henry Clark told about he grew up with. You had John the Conqueror and you had John Canoe in the Caribbean. You know what I'm saying? And in West Africa, there's also a version of John Canoe and John the Conqueror. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying how this ties all us together. It ties us with the Africans here in this country, in America, with the Africans in the Caribbean, and with the Africans on the continent. But this is the kind of stuff that you would never hear Negroes who saying, I ain't no African talk about. You know what I'm saying? Or who try to deny their Africanity. I just want to throw that stuff in real quick because it was something I had heard, man, and I'm not gonna write that. I didn't mean to take up too much time. All right, y'all.
Hey, Anthony, real quick, and Buana, I'm also asking you, is the John Canoe Festival, is that in remembrance and an ode to this John Canoe guy?
Hey, I'm sorry, but they have a connection. What I'm saying, also, there's one thing I forgot. In South Carolina, in the 1700s, 1800s, the John Canoe Festival was also celebrated in South Carolina among the Gullah people.
That's a
as well as the people in the Caribbean.
And none of you guys, especially Buana and Koku, Bahamians, you guys have never invited us to the John Canoe Festival. Shame on you guys. Come on. What's wrong with you guys?
Yo, Anthony is going friggin' in tonight. I don't know what in this liquor. I don't know what you drinking, Anthony, but you going in. He is going in tonight. He's straight up going in. I swear to God. I swear to God. He is going in. Because, man, that's the connections he's making right now is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But I appreciate it, though. I really appreciate it. That touched my heart just now. That touched my heart. Can I go? Can I go since I'm talking?
But wait. Before you go, Buana, I know I'm not the host, but Koku, Buana, how come you guys have not invited us to this festival? What's going on?
No, because we don't have chapatis
Shame on you. Shame on you.
Yeah, we don't serve chapatis in
Shame on both of you guys.
No, that's good. I think that Anthony is going in, man. He is, oh goodness, man. He is an African teacher for real. He is agreeable for real. And I don't even mess with him when it comes to this in terms of African history and spirituality. He is the professor par excellence. I gotta give it to the brother. I give it to him all day long. But what I have to say is this. Here's what I have to say. It is a shame that no African country, because I think that whoever presented this prompt talked about power. You have to have the power to impose certain things, in particular religion. And it's a shame that no African country right now has an African traditional religion as a state religion. That is a shame. In fact, I'd even say this. No African president is openly saying that his faith is of an African origin. No, not the only one I could remember is Jacob Zuma. Jacob Zuma was saying that he practices African spirituality and things and he's the only African leader. And even the great Ibrahim Traore, he bumping his head towards Mecca, 5 times a day as well. Outside of himself, I'm asking, Didn't Burkina Faso have religion before there was Islam? You know, so even in his greatness, he's still bowing down, turning towards Mecca. I have a problem with that a little bit. You know, why is it? Why is it in places like Ghana? Ghana fought wars, the Ashanti Wars. I'm sure Anthony could tell you about the Ashanti Wars. Big time against the British. Big time. The Khans was moving some furniture around in Ghana trying to fight against slavery and the British. How is it that so many Ghanaians are Christians today? Even the president, the president is Muhammad is Assemblies of God person. How is that possible? You know, the only black country where the state where the state recognized African religion as a faith was Haiti. Papa Doc make voodoo a state religion at one point. How is that possible?
So I would say, it's possible because 95% of Africans belong to either Islam or Christianity. You get an African state leader who talks about he's practicing African spiritual system, they're going to try to murder that man as practicing witchcraft. Okay?
Could you imagine?
Yeah, I definitely could imagine it. I definitely could imagine. I think it was in Malawi or one of them countries. Some people were being burned or being murdered for being witches. Like they were literally, adhering to stuff that white people have moved past. That's why I always like when Dr. Clark said that black people are true believers, right? We out Pope the Pope, we out Muhammad. Whereas, if you're seeing in the West, and especially in European nations, the level of religious, adherence is going down. But then you turn around, you look at Africa and parts of Latin America and so forth, it's actually going up to where you have black people who still believe in witchcraft. So if an African leader was to say, hey, you know what, I'm giving, I don't care about Jesus no more, I don't care about Allah, I want to go back to our traditional belief, man, he wouldn't last a week. I'm sorry.
It's amazing because the Christians and the Islamists, they have a perfect marketing strategy. I mean, perfect. I mean, to be a Christian, you have to give everything of yourself. They say, lean not to your own understanding. Lean to the understanding or just rely on this Yahweh person who lives wherever he lives. Perfect marketing. You give everything. In Islam, they say you are Abdullah, servant, slave of Allah. You giving everything. You lose your whole complete personality. Where the African religion say, we just want you to give reverence. Every now and then, give reverence and honor to ancestors. Good, brother.
Hey, brother, I got a good one for you, and I'm glad you. Hey, and I agree with you 100%. Yeah, because I am very much I don't, I'm not with Islam. I mean, I used to be Muslim. I'm not with that mess and with Christianity and all that. I dabbled in Nation of Islam and stuff. But what I'm saying is this right here. One thing, Dr. Clark always also talked about this too. I know. Well, it seems like Kobe the one who been studying a lot of Dr. Clark, some of his sayings. So you remember Dr. Clark, like I said, he was talking about if you're gonna be a Christian or you're gonna be a Muslim, do it in a black way. Do it in a way that serves your people. In a way that serves your people. Okay, like I said, the Honorable Marcus Garvey was a Christian. You know what I'm saying? Brother Malcolm X was a Muslim. Now Malcolm went to Mecca, and Mecca, even though he didn't say it, Malcolm seen the racism. He seen all of that. Malcolm was a shrewd politician, so he had to say certain things. You know what I'm saying, about the brotherhood and all that. But Malcolm knew what time it was. You know what I'm saying? Dr. Collins, I remember when he went and he came back and he went in on the Arabs. You know what I'm saying? He despised them for the treatment against black people. So what I'm saying, yes, and also, yes, Kofi, you talk about in Senegal. I used to eat at a Senegalese restaurant in Atlanta called Bamba Cuisine. And the brother name was Muhammad, who owned the restaurant. And I used to go inside and talk to him, man. And brother would come in and do their prayers and stuff. And we just chop it up. But one thing I noticed about them and about most African Muslims that I know, they're not puritanical people like Arabs. Or like, Al-Shabaab. I mean, all of these organizations. I mean, the average Muslim brother. You know what I'm saying? Their Islam is more relaxed. Women have a bigger role. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's not like we got to dress a woman up. A woman dress up in a garb if she wants to cover her body up. You know, you go to Afghanistan or some parts of the Arab world, you know, you got to do that. You know, you in trouble. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a male-dominated thing. It's a male chauvinist kind of religion. You know what I'm saying? Where you see they'll kill a woman if she come out there not dressed like that. Like, you know, you see the Taliban was doing in Afghanistan. But I'm saying it's not the Islam in West Africa is not like that. I mean, it's still Islam, and I'm still against it because it's anti-African to me and anti-black. But I'm just saying it's more relaxed. It's not the same thing. It's just like when the Mongols was running roughshod over Asia, they ran into Iran, and you know, and they witnessed the culture, the beautiful buildings and artwork and stuff. So some of the Iranian, Mongol leaders had started converting to Islam. Because, you know, these were rural people who lived out on the steppes and they, you know, and come into the cities, beautiful cities and stuff like that. And they kind of liked it. And so they converted. But one thing that the Mongols did, they never did lose their Mongol character. They said, yes, we converted to Islam. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, we were still Mongols, and the Islam didn't trump their Mongol heritage. You know, and they Mongol identity. So, I mean, I'm just saying that's how Islam spread in a lot of places. You know, places like Iran. You know, Iran, those not Arab people. No, Iranians are not Arabs. They Muslim, but you could tell that their Islam is different than the Arabs, the Wahhabis in Arabia. You know what I'm saying? What I'm saying, they had a strong cultural base where they maintained their culture. And that's what a lot of Africans do. You know, they maintain their culture. You know what I'm saying? Even though, yeah, they do that. And I understand where you're coming from. You know, I mean, like I said, Islam is bullshit to me. But I'm just saying, I think that we made Islam different, you know, when we adopted it. We made it different. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, I'm still not for it, but I'm saying it's not the same thing. Because and last I'm close. With Traore, what happened, you know, one of the Arab leaders wanted to build 200 mosques in Burkina Faso. And Traore said, no, we don't need no mosques. We need some other shit. No, we need infrastructure. We need building things to help our people. Remember, he said that. You know what I'm saying? They wanted to build 200 mosques in Burkina Faso. He said, no, we don't need no damn mosques. You know what I'm saying? We know God everywhere. No, we don't need to go to a mosque to worship God. He said, what we need to do is build our country and build our people.
No, Anthony, I dig that. But my only issue is, I mean, you can't not even one country, brother, not even one country say we recognize with the large populations of Akan and Yoruba and all other different ethnicities and things like that. You can't have one state that say, well, we recognize an African religion as an official religion in our country. Not even one, brother. Not even one.
Benin made voodoo one of the official religions. But in Nigeria, the Yoruba people, only 20% of the Yoruba people are traditionalists. Only 80% are Christians and Muslims.
Yeah, well, it is what it is.
Yeah, I think what it is more of a. I mean, coming from the back, because I was very religious, and to me, it's more of a fear tactic. Now, when you're given as a child a children's Bible, not like a colorful children's Bible, it's for a children's Bible, and you're reading things that no one shall lay eyes on God, especially if you lay eyes on the devil. If you lay eyes on the devil, ye shall surely die. And I remember my aunt gave me my sister and I a Bible, and it was a picture. It was like a Bible, but you know, it was like a picture Bible, but it was a pretty good thick Bible. And it's like tattooed in my brain even up to this day. I must have got it when I was like 11 or something. It was the story about Jesus, about the devil tempting Jesus on the mount. And I didn't know what it was. I'm looking through the pictures and I just see the picture of the devil, and like fear just went in my heart. And I flipped the page because according to the Bible, I don't know why this Bible is showing that, but my mother's Bible, the big Bible, you know, with all the highlights and the tabs sticking out of it, saying, look, you can't, you can't, no one can lay eyes on the God and the devil's evil. But used to put a lot of fear in my heart. Even so, I think it's more of a fear component to what Koku was saying. He's like, hey man, I'm on my deathbed right now. You know, I need to get right with Allah right now. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather face I rather not face the vengefulness of Allah, and I have no problem than face the Orishas. And I think that's what it is. It comes down to a fear component of what it is, because and that's all that it is. Because people are like, well, what you gonna do when you die? You know what I'm saying? Is all they do is just sell you death. They sell you spiritual death. So once you buy sin, they got the answer for you. They got the remedy for you, and that's the trick that our people have to get over.
Me personally, in terms of death and things like that, I'm going back to where my ancestors are. I don't believe in no hell business. I going back to wherever the hell they are. They are unseen right now, but I going back to where they are. And they wouldn't, even if whatever was to try to send me, they wouldn't let me go to hell. Whatever, if hell even exists. But I doubt it. But I'm going back to where the ancestors is. Wherever my father going, I going. And so I just look at it differently in terms of life and death. So I don't know. This is just how I look at it. So I'll leave it there, Koku. So you could go ahead if you want to, brother.
Well, I was gonna real quick,
Jacadero.
Yeah, go ahead, Koku.
All right, Jacadero, go ahead. I can move on, please. Go ahead.
I was gonna say to Buana, like the hell that you're thinking of is a place with no chapati and ugali.
That's good.
So when I say move on, remember this prompt came with 2 videos. I didn't see the second one, but Trigger got it to me while some of you guys were speaking. So it's up on screen right now. It's a tweet from Sion, Pan Afro Core. Said, this is very interesting. I've always wondered why Somalis aren't able to be Muslim while retaining their Somalis culture, language, and heritage. It's even intriguing to see Somalis in the comments of that video advocating for the complete erasure of the indigenous African culture in favor of Arab cultures, all because of Islam. So I'm going to play the video and not read the whole caption because I feel like it gives away some of the things we'll pick up in the video.
The Arab culture is erasing Somali identity, Somali culture. Here are 3 reasons. Number 1, Arab culture is the model and religion is the excuse, because now we're dressed like the Arabs, we talk like the Arabs, we speak their mannerism, and we call it deen. But then Somali poetry, Somali dance, Somali dress, Somali dresses, yeah, we all label them as Jahiliyyah. Ain't that crazy? Because it's not Arab enough. Number 2, our language is dying while the Arabic language is performed in our culture and is not understood. Some of our kids barely speak Somali, but they can fluently recite a surah without knowing the meaning in Arabic or in Somali. Right? We're really just performing the language, and ours in the background fading. Number 3, we're cosplaying their culture and their heritage. In our Somali culture, you wear the ma'awiz when you just chill like that, going for a quick run outside, doing a little thing, yapping outside with the boys. And now that gets side-eyed. That's looked at sus, wearing the ma'awiz outside. We can put on the khamis though. And now when it comes to naming our kids, first thing we think of is Arab-related names, Arab cultural names, and not our Somali OG names, bro. That gets side-eye. The level of how much we engage with cosplaying the Arab culture, we need to do that to the Somali culture while still enjoying the religion. I appreciate you for liking the video. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, this coincides with some thoughts I had, I think it was last week or the week before, about that erasure. When, if I remember, I think it was Brother Bakari who was on the panel at the time, and he said something along the lines of, like, in the future, they'll be able to tell it. They'll tell us Malcolm X was an Arab, right? El Hajj. They'll say that's an Arab guy, and I think that's happened to us already in history. I think some of the things that we attribute to the Arabs was Islamicized Africans. You know what I mean? It's important that we push to keep our naming systems, our names, the way we do things. When you get into this Abrahamic stuff, man, like Sister Raw said earlier in the chat, this stuff came from war. Oni has talked about that in the past, worship. Like, we are actively engaging in a war against ourselves, against who we are. And it's so simple. It's so simple to keep your name, but if you're entrenched in this nonsense, you'll give that up easily. You wouldn't even think about it, you know? With that said, though, we'll keep it brief, guys. What are your thoughts on this second video that I played just now? Keep it brief for me before we go on to Shoot the Breeze topic number 3. Anyone could answer in any order.
I'll go first. When I revealed to my stepfather that, hey, I left Islam. I'm not fasting for Ramadan. I'm not going to Friday prayers. And he asked me, okay, when you have kids, like what type of names are you going with? And I said, Lual names. And he said, what's Islamic about Lual names? And then we just had that stare down. Now there's a famous meme with Diddy on like a singing talent show, and then he stares at a contestant, and then they just stare back at each other. And that's the exact moment that me and him had. And I said, what's Lual about Islam? And we just continue to stare back. So I appreciate the brother for sharing his testimony about how Somalis are losing their culture to Arabism, Islam. You got to fight back, and that's exactly what I've been doing. Fuck Islam. Let's go.
Let's go. Who else wants? Go ahead.
So Jacadero Zakafa, you know. So I am curious that no. If a Kafa, oh, I'm the unbeliever. If an unbeliever,
infidel, a proud infidel, a Lual infidel. Yes, yeah,
a Lual infidel. So I'm wondering how your stepfather would look at that, because I'm assuming he's a Lual as well, but he's a Muslim Lual. But you take on the perspective of you are a Lual, that's it. So, as far as an Islamic person, an Islamicist, he looks at you as an unbeliever now or an infidel. So how does he handle that scenario? I'm curious. I'm very curious.
Yeah,
because he can't go against his traditional culture. So what do you say to that?
Yeah, he's actually my stepfather is from South Sudan, from the Badi tribe, from Central Equatoria. The Badi are very close to the Acholi, though, Lual speaking peoples, Lual practicing peoples, but he's never had good things to say about Lual peoples, Acholi peoples especially. He grew up in Uganda, in the Acholi part of Uganda. He was actually born in an Acholi village. That's how much the Badi and the Acholi are so close to each other among South Sudanese communities. And he was even given, at birth, an Acholi name, but he refused to be known by that. One of the remarks that he's always said is that Acholi women are very loose and not trustworthy in the fidelity context. So I'm sure because he raised me as his son, he would have that soft heart for me. But no, I know that he would look at me if I was just another human being. Yeah, he wouldn't give me the time of day. But that's modern day Africa, man. We're tribalists in modern day Africa.
Yeah, so I'll add. Oh, okay. Well, let me just say one thing I'll add is, I wrote about this actually in my book about you got to be strategic, right? These religious groups, and I'm not going to read it verbatim, but these religious groups, what they do is they employ a strategy. Okay, the Jews have their goyim, or their Gentiles, right? The Christians have their. Let me see if I could read it. The Christians have their pagans, and the Muslims have their kafir, right? And what these religions tell you or they teach you is to treat those people outside of the religion worse. Okay? All three of these so quote unquote Abrahamic religions have this trait. So, you know, those of you who are familiar with Torah or whatever, Judaism basically says, hey, you can practice usury or sell rotten meat to Goyim. You know, the pagans, we know about pagans and what they do. And you know, we know about what Christians do to pagans. And then Islam excludes kafir from zakat, right? Their charity, and also say that they can be enslaved and that kind of stuff, right? They have a strategy. You know, that they do what you call, sometimes they do positive works, you know, like I said, zakat, what have you, right? But then they also have a strategy of what, you know, what Coco just said, I said before, worship. Okay, worship. It's all an instrument of war. And, you know, for us, you know, when this person is reciting to us, hey, you know, this is what's happening. Yeah, that's what happens when when a strategic people come against a people who are not strategic. And it really is for us to start being strategic. You know, there's such a thing as peeping game. You know, these people are saying, hey, if you're not a part of our group, right, you're the enemy. Or you're not a part of our group, you're not family. You're not us. You're not our people. You know, we burn witches. We burn pagans, right? You're an atheist, you can't work here, right? That's you know, we have to like what we have not gotten to that stage. Now, obviously, you know, I've tried, you know, to write books and, you know, promote that kind of stage, but, you know, that's not effective, right? You know what I mean? But what I'm saying is that, you know, generally speaking, we're not at that stage and we're not trying to be at that stage. And because we're not at that stage, we're not trying to be at that stage. People who are at that stage, because, you know, I don't know that much about Islam, right? Other people can tell you more about Islam. But what I can tell you about Islam is Muhammad peeped game. Okay, he saw what the Christians could do. He saw what the Jews could do, and he said, "Wait a second, I could do this for the Arabs." Okay, it's very evident from the little I gleaned, right, that he said, "Look, I could do this what they would do, and I could probably do it better." And he you know, for what it's worth, the Muslim religion spread, you know, rapidly. But it's like sometimes you have to look at another people and peep game. And if you're not looking at anybody, you're not peeping game, you're not adjusting, you're not adapting. If you're not on the side of being strategic, you know, if you're not on the side of being the player, you're gonna get played. And that's what we see. You know, the brother's talking. He's saying, look, man, we getting played. Yeah, you're getting played. Because how are you not trying to get played? That's it.
Appreciate that, Oni. Before we go to Shoot the Breeze, topic number 13, let me just sneak this one in here real quick.
Music and the history of this Junkanoo Festival. Only allowed to party once a year. Now, it's a cultural explosion with handmade costumes, drumming, and a free spirit. Junkanoo isn't just a party, it's proof that African culture is alive and well in the Caribbean. Imagine a carnival full of color. Imagine a carnival.
All right, for some reason my computer is acting up, but you guys get the idea. Shoot the Breeze topic number 3 tonight says, fear of a black planet. Why is there a fear of increased black fertility? Can there be a black planet, or is the logistics of that nonsensical? This comes with a link that takes us back to X. And on X, this is a tweet from No. It says, LOL, the future is black. And there's a retweet from someone called Bowtied Ranger says, just an absolute black pill of a map. So I'm just going to put the map up here. Let me see if you guys can see the entire map. Kind of, sort of. Let me see. I'm going to put the map up here because this is the most important part really in here. And you guys take a good look at what the statistics are showing. Global birth fertility rate since 1963, 5.3 times. And you can see where that lands mostly, as far as this map is concerned, mostly in Africa, right? Close to India, there's some of that going on, but it's mostly what they would call sub-Saharan Africa at that. So I was looking at it. LOL, the future is black. These are the statistics. I was looking at some of the comments while you guys were talking. And someone says, imagine realizing the global pedophilic elites want to use you as a bioweapon against humanity, and you think it's a flex. Someone else here, looks like a black person, Andre Williams, says, Africans can barely feed themselves or maintain a stable government for more than 5 years without a care package from the United States or China. Even with this being said, Africans would not want to work with black Americans. So this comment reminded me of our first prompt with Charlie Kirk tonight, which is why you got to push back. You have to have the what's the word? You have to have the opposite narrative, because this guy probably listened to a Charlie Kirk type in the past. That's why he's posting this. But anyway, the point of this prompt is the fear of a black planet. You look at global fertility rates, fear of a black planet. So we'll discuss that primarily. With that said, let me start with Oni on this one. Can there be a black planet, or is the logistics of that nonsensical?
Well, I mean, I almost feel like I wrote this question. I mean, I didn't, but I feel like yeah, it's nonsensical. I mean, there's trouble with this map when you're reading the map, right? One, it shows you, look, 1963, the global fertility rate was 5.3. So basically everywhere around the world was 5.3. Today it's around 2.3 because most of the countries slowed down. I don't remember the name. I think it was like Malthusian graph or something like that. But basically, and of course it's debunked. It's not real, blah, blah, blah. But what I would say is, when you look at this map, we tend to forget that Africa is much larger than what this map is showing. And for what it's worth, Africa is relatively underpopulated. Okay, because I believe I don't remember exactly, but I think it's like the size of China, North America, and Europe, like combined or something like that. Like not North America, but like United States, China, and Europe combined is the size of Africa. But obviously the map doesn't demonstrate. I mean, I guess it kind of does, but it doesn't, right? That said, China has 3 billion people or something like that. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, and it is 4 a.m. or something. Or, no, it's 5 a.m. and I didn't get any sleep, so I'm not remembering it. But China has 3 billion people or something like that. United States has, I want to say 500,000 maybe now, or maybe 400,000, right? Africa only has 1 billion people. Okay? Europe has 1 billion people. But the difference between Europe and Africa is that Europe is like one fourth the size or something like that. So basically, Africa has a lot of room to have a lot more people. That said, it's also a matter of, like how the economy is structured, for the most part, if you have an agricultural economy, and this is why the 1963 rate was important. If you have an agricultural economy, you don't you should have a lot of kids. You know what I mean? Like, one, they help you on the farm. You know, two, they don't cost that much because you're on a farm. You know what I mean? Like, you're on a farm. When you go into what they had called industrial economies, right? You go into cities and that kind of stuff, right? Urban economies, that sort of stuff. You don't want to have a bunch of kids because they're expensive. They cost as much as, you or I do. Like, for instance, if I want to fly to another country, my son's plane ticket costs as much as mine. If I want to eat some food, he eats the same. His meal costs the same as my meal. It's not cheaper. It's not less expensive. All that kind of stuff. So, very realistically, if you read this map, we're not taking into account how severely Africa was depopulated before. How much it was depopulated when how many millions were stolen from Africa, and of course how many millions were killed during colonization, and how the infrastructure doesn't lend to that sort of stable economy where you wouldn't where you'd say, hey, let me not have that many children, right? That said, the other countries are not necessarily overpopulated. United States still has a lot of room, but again, the economy does not favor you having 5 kids, 6 kids. If you have 5 or 6 kids in the United States of America and you're not rich, I mean, what I'm saying? Like, okay, you can do that, but what are the prospects for your kids, right? If you're looking to, in the Western world, if you're looking for your kids to be, success stories, you're looking to invest quite a bit of money into each of them. And if you're not doing that and you're just having kids, which a lot of people do, right? They're not really investing in their kids. They're just having a bunch of kids. A lot like the orphanage, that system is full, and it's full of. If we're talking about America too, it's full of Black youth in America. Prisons are full of Black youth in America. All that sort of stuff. So it's like foster care is full of Black youth or Black kids that will not be picked up. That kind of stuff. So I mean, obviously, Africa is having a more rapid population growth, but as far as the question that we're concerned about, would this make the whole planet black? No, because again, there's 3 billion, Chinese people, and then there's 3 billion Indian people. You know what I mean? Like half of the world population are Indian or Chinese. If Africa were to catch up, it still wouldn't change the fact that half the population, it still wouldn't change the fact that there's 3 billion people in a region called China, right? And there's 3 billion people in a region called India. There's 1 million, that doesn't spread. I mean, unless Black people were to, yeah.
I think it's only 1 billion in each of those areas. By the way,
you said what?
I think it's only 1 billion in each of those areas you mentioned. China only has 1 billion.
Yeah, I just see what Anthony said. Oh, okay. Wait, I thought the population of the Earth was like 7 billion now. Yeah, that makes more sense. Look, I told you guys what time it was. Yeah, 1 billion each. Yeah. So each of them has like 1 billion. Then like Africa, like again, Europe has 1 billion. So like the numbers are pretty measured, like pretty comparable to each other. But also you got to bear in mind that Africa, like some of them are not Africans. Some of the people in Africa are not Africans. And then of course some of the people in America are not, or some people in Europe and America are not Europeans. But a lot of the Chinese are Chinese. Like a lot of the Asians are Asian. You know what I'm saying? But even so, it's like, yeah, if the numbers keep growing, maybe, but that can come in instability if there's not an infrastructure to accommodate them. So you're talking about future child soldiers, possibly, potentially, Now, I'm not saying that things can't turn around because everything can turn around. You know, it's just a question of, but like as far as the concern of, well, if this country grows in population, then it's gonna like spread out, and America is gonna be African, and China is gonna be African. Like that's not good. Like the odds of that happening are slim to none. Slim to none. It would take a very strategic mindset that it's just not being practiced. It's not being. There's no indication of that sort of strategic thinking at this point in time. That's it.
Appreciate that, Oni. Let me hear from Brother Anthony next on this one.
Yeah, Coco. Yeah, that's a great topic. I think, just to come right after Oni. Yeah, I went back to go look it up. But I said, Oni, that sounds like that might be a little bit too many people in China. But I say China and India both have a population of 1.4 billion. Both of them each have 1.4 billion. And Africa has a population of 1.55 billion. A billion and 55 million. It's like Oni said, Africa is underpopulated. I mean, half of the countries in Africa have populations of like under 10 million. I mean, when you get past like Ethiopia, which has over 100 million, or Nigeria, which has over around 200 million, and like the Congo and places like that, the average country has a smaller population, man. So Africa is 12 million square miles. It's plenty of land. So this whole agenda about this whole thing, really, you know what? When they say fear of a black planet, you have to read between the lines of what these Europeans are saying. What they really saying is the end of white people. You know what I'm saying? Because their numbers are decreasing. And the numbers of black people are decreasing. And you see these African countries projected, like Kenya. I think Kenya is supposed to be projected to have one of the fastest growing populations in Africa. Well, at one time anyway. But really most of East Africa. Because I've seen Tanzania grow from, in my lifetime, but Tanzania had like 20-some million people, and now I got 50 million people. You know what I'm saying? But I think, when you factor in, the emerging economies, the emerging countries like in Africa and in Asia, and in the Western Hemisphere, like in Brazil, with these emerging economies that's challenging the old status quo as far as economically. The dollar, we seeing a de-dollarization where the dollar is not as important no more. I mean, actually in Ghana, the Ghana CD is becoming stronger, compared to what the dollar was in Ghana. So I think what it is when they saying about this fear of a black planet or fear of these of a non-white planet, they mean a non-white politically and economically controlled planet. Well, we used to have this, and now these people run around some at BRICS and some at all these other organizations, economic organizations, which countries are joining. Well, it's no longer America is like the primary place where you got to go to America to make it big. You got to get to the American market. Well, people started doing what they should have did a long time ago. Trading with each other. You know what I'm saying? Instead of like no, we got to put our cocoa, we got to put all our stuff on the world market. You know what I'm saying? And and be subject to their prices and stuff like that. I think that's what it's fear of a black planet is really the fear of white people, of white people losing power like they had. You look at France now. France now, they're so scared in France. With just two countries. Just imagine, with just three countries saying fuck y'all. Just imagine if all the rest of the Francophone countries said fuck y'all. You know what I'm saying? And we look at Britain, don't nobody even talk about Britain no more. They don't even talk about Britain. And when you do, you talk about some Kimmy Badnock or somebody. You ain't even talk about white folks, but they're almost irrelevant now. So you don't hear people talk about Britain as being a power. Remember they had the big four, America, France, China, Britain and all that. Man, you don't even know nobody talk about these people no more. You don't even hear people talking about America that much like they used to. Yeah, it's still the so-called big bad wolf. But they have other people to challenge their hegemony now. Regardless of whether what we're gonna think about China or Russia, if they just future neo-colonists or whatever. But I think at the end of the day, fear of a black planet really means the reduction of white power. That's what it's, because see, they the ones saying it. We're not saying it. You know, black people ain't running around the world talking about, oh, y'all, we're going to have a black planet. You know what I'm saying? That's them. They imagine it in their minds how it would be if we ever got some unity and came together, and probably, you know, in a white man, what if they do the shit to us what we did to them? You know what I'm saying? That's always been on their mind. So yeah, you know, fear of a black planet is, you know, me, my white ass losing power, not being important no more, you know, not being able to do the bullshit that I used to do. That's the way I look at it, man. I'll knock off right there.
Appreciate that, Anthony. Jacadero, what say you?
Yeah, just like Anthony had said, fear of a black planet is what they call reading between the lines. It's a dog whistle, but it's stupid because, just like Oni had pointed out, literally the eastern half of the globe is dominating the population. So what are they really scared of? Yeah, I don't have much to add to this. I mean, the statistics are there, especially Anthony brought up East African countries like Kenya, you know, Kenya, Uganda. I wouldn't be surprised about Tanzania, but Kenya and Uganda have populations where 40% is under the age of what, 30 or 27 age, 20, at least under the age of 27. So it's like, what do you guys? But here is where this is good news, though. With statistics like that we're seeing on the screen here, this can be a great catalyst for some of us that are really ambitious to, you know, fund whoever is already on the continent and be like, what can you do for the betterment of African peoples? I think this map is showing the Caribbean as well. You know, people that are already in the Caribbean. Try to see who's already doing good for the betterment and fund those organizations or groups. You know, there's an African peoples here in Omaha, Nebraska, and if you want to fund what they're doing and they're doing a good job, you know, stick around for the end of the show. I digress.
Appreciate that, Jacadero. With that said, let me hear from Kofi next. Kofi, what say you?
Okay, it's this. I'm gonna. I might trigger everybody. We're overlooking. We're overlooking some things here. So let me address the prompt first, and then I'll go into what I mean. Now, yeah, because white supremacy is just basically that them thinking that they're supreme. We gotta understand white people are the global minority. They knew that they were the global minority when they saw people that didn't resemble their pigmentation. So white people are very good at manipulation, war, and lying. So to keep their population on, you know, in check and a lot, they have to reign supreme and manipulate how we think, what we are, you know, white ice is colder, things of that nature, you know, denigrate our ways, customs, and everything. But people are still going to do. And to this map you have right here. So yeah, there is going to be the minority fears the majority. But you got to understand that the majority of us being African people that circumnavigated the world, African people, I'll emphasize that again, African people that circumnavigated the planet, as we could say, you know, they went to parts of Asia, they went to Europe and things of that nature. We don't have a colonial mindset, right? But what things that are wicked things that white people has done, yeah, they have that fear. Now I'm going to go to the thing that is being overlooked. You know, I'm not going to say I'm a guru in geography, but I'm very close to it, and I'm proud of that. So when we're talking black, this being a Pan-African channel, we are talking about African people. So when I'm looking at this map, right, let's start at our hemisphere right here. We see Central America. See, Central America is blue, not the dark blue, right? Yeah, there are some people in Central America that are African descent. And you see there in the Caribbean as well. Makes sense. Same thing here. You have Guyana right there. That's kind of blue. Then you have Venezuela and Suriname. Not that many people there are of African descent. But wait a minute. Why is Brazil so low? There's no African people in Brazil? Like I don't understand, but they got all these other Latin American countries that they consider to be, black. What is black? What are we talking about? So again, we're looking at through the lens of white supremacists. But as a pan African, we're looking for like black people. So they don't even have Brazil. They don't even think Brazilians are black, even though the fact that there are more black people in Brazilian than there are out of Africa. Say United States, I understand that, right? And then they have like Arab. So we go all the way to Europe. You got like Western Europe, Arab countries. And then, this is where you guys going to get triggered. Then you have Southeast Asian countries like Papua New Guinea, Vietnam, and those places. That would be right above Australia, if you know what Australia looks like, right? So I don't understand what we're talking about here, like when it comes to this map. Because if they're just talking black people, then okay, fine. But I'm talking about African people. You know what I'm saying? So as far as African people goes, yeah, it is mostly heavily concentrated in Africa. But the places adjacent around Africa, I see either no representation or very little representation of African people, not melanated people, not dark-skinned Asian people that are not African, not Indian people that are not African, not South American, Mesoamerican people that are darkly melanated that are not African people, right? You have some that are from African descent, understand that, but not Brazil. I find that to be very, very odd. And then you have somewhere dead center in the middle, Mongolia. So Coco, if you point your cursor up, if you know where China is, there's a little blue thing right there, and I think that's Mongolia. They consider Mongols a black planet. Like, like what is going on here?
Kofi, I think you're reading the map wrong, brother.
I am?
Yeah, because it's saying global fertility rates. So what they're showing is that the global fertility rate. So looking at the map is showing that these are those countries. If you could scroll down a little bit, Coco, it says the global fertility rate is 4.0 or higher, and those countries below 1.0. So Mongolia is not saying it's a black planet, but it's saying their fertility rate is higher. So, for example, if you look at the map, you got Puerto Rico, I know this by heart, South Korea, and Japan. Their fertility rate is below 1.0. So in order for the replacement rate, I believe is like 2.5, 2.1 kids or something like that, is the replacement rate. So what they're saying is that based on these numbers, these countries that are in pink are below the replacement rate in their population. That's all they're saying. But no, they're not black, but they're just saying that these countries, their fertility rate is below replacement level.
Oh, okay. I thought we were considering. I don't have my glasses on, but I thought we were considering these places that are blue and dark blue to be black nations.
No, just the fertility rate. So Mongolian, they fucking in Mongolia. They're not fucking in Australia though.
But I just find it very odd, even with that clarity. Thank you for that clarity. Again, I don't have my glasses on.
Japan, I don't know what's going on in Japan, but they got a whole group of men they call Hikikomori, or grass eaters.
Yeah, because they screwing robots. They screwing robots, and but Japan has a very bad fertility rate. They even have some countries, I think, in Asia and some places in Europe where they're paying men and people to live there because the population is low and their birth rate is really low, where they're importing people from Africa. Like, hey, come, we'll give you X amount of money and a house and some land just to live here. You know what I'm saying? Because they're concerned about their declining birth rates. But thanks for that, Black Steel. Thanks for that, Black Steel. Yeah, but no, I still kind of find it early. Like in Brazil, their fertility rates is low. It's kind of like weird to me. It's kind of odd. And in Black America, that's all pink. But I guess they're looking at the minorities. They're looking at the majority, not the minority, because Black people are doing fine here in America. So I don't know why all that's pink. And you have some Hispanic people, the Latino people that are here, saying I don't think their birth rate is going low either. So I don't know. I kind of find them, even with that clarity, I still find this map not to be accurate.
Allow me to welcome in Brother Bakari this week. I know he's in the middle of something, so he took time out to come and speak with us. So, Brother Bakari, how are you doing this week?
I'm good, my brother. How everybody on the panel doing, man? I ain't
Good,
got
man.
long. I came to speak, the chat, how everybody doing. Hey, what I talked to you about earlier, Coco, because I ain't even know what the topic was about. I just came in and clicked. Bro, we got to talk with these white people in North Carolina on a whole nother level, man. These motherfuckers on a whole nother level. They have just, and in Charlotte, they have just completely taken, man, shit, you can damn near count the Black people on shit on two hands that I saw here. Man, they on, look, bro, they tried to start something with us. They were scared, though. Throw something from the third floor, water on my back from the third floor, then dude walk out, bro. We got a lot to talk about, and we got a lot of work to do here, man. I'm dead serious, bro. Black people better be ready. That's all I got to say.
I appreciate that, Bakari, with the effect of the police sirens in the background. I do appreciate that. But yeah, Brother Bakari spoke to me earlier on the phone. He was telling me he's in North Carolina.
Yeah, Charlotte. Yeah.
Charlotte, and they claim that it's like 39% white, 37% Black or something, but he's not seeing too many Black folks there. Bakari, you still there?
Blackish. You see Blackish people in the damn in the interracial dating, man. Here, I'm telling you, bro. I'm telling you, the interracial dating is on a different level. But these people here, man, they on a different level. Like I said, man, motherfucker threw, pardon my French on your panel, they threw something down on me, some water, something from the third floor. Then the other guy come out on the pole. We looking because we trying to see who throwing stuff. Then we look up there, we say something, he run back and fuck this and slam the door. And I'm like, oh, they mad because we Black. I'm like, man, let's just sit here all night then. So then one of the ladies that live here, they was like, yeah, ain't many Black people in this area. I'm like, but man, I'm on this side of town, on the other side of town, drove to the other side of town. I ain't seen many Black people, man. I haven't seen many Black people. So don't know what apartment they in. They wouldn't come outside. But I'm telling you, man, folks in North Carolina better be ready just like Black folk everywhere, man. And I'm just being honest. Better be ready, man. I haven't seen nothing like this, bro. I'm just being honest with you. It's damn near like it's damn near like looking in Utah, man. All these white folks you see to compare to the amount of Black people. That's just my take. Like I said, I don't even listen to, man. I just want to come on here and say that and speak. Take my time to speak. That's it.
Yeah, it was a good time to come in because we are talking about we have a Black planet, and we are talking about the numbers of Black folks in different geographical locations and stuff like that. But that's an interesting story happening there in Charlotte. I didn't know that was going on. But I'm not too surprised. Like I told you earlier, I think that's where the research triangle is. I think that's where it is. And the research triangle, a part of that initiative was really to bring a bunch of white folks into that Charlotte area under the guise of researchers and stuff like that,
But they did. Trust me, they did, bro. It's like I said, they say the city is 32% Black, 39% white. I forget the other demographics, so on and so forth, man. But I don't know. That's what they say. But the Black folk must be concentrated in one area, and I haven't seen that area that they're concentrated in there. They must all just be in one area. I haven't seen that area.
Easy pickings too. If you're all in one area, easy pickings. But thank you for that, Bakari.
I'm gonna shout out, man, because I'm gonna get off here, man. Shout out everybody on the panel and to the chat, man. Peace and one love. I'm gonna try to listen offline right quick.
Yes, sir. You guys make sure to subscribe to Brother Bakari's channel as well. Thanks for that, Brother Bakari. Let me go to Buana next. Buana, what are your thoughts on this fear of a black planet?
Yeah, yes, sir. So let me first say, shout out to Brother Bakari. You know, we love our Brother Bakari, and we want him to stay safe in North Carolina. I hope he take his Roscoe with him to North Carolina just in case. You never know. But I don't buy into this idea of a fear of a black planet. And the reason why I say that is it's bigger than just the numbers. It's bigger than just the numbers. Why I say that? Because a white person could go inside of Ghana and be worshipped like a god. If he dress up like, like the picture of Jesus Christ and stuff like that, he could be worshipped like a god. In South Africa, the whites are the minority in South Africa, yet they control the reins of power in South Africa. It's not enough in terms of numbers when you could produce black Europeans time and time again. It's about the mind state. It's about the mind state. The fear is, I am in fear of Anthony McFall. I am in fear of a Jacadero. I'm in fear of a Tasseri. I'm in fear of him. Why? Because they are teaching there's another way of governing the world outside of how we've been governed to think and operate. Only Tasseri. There's another way. And these brothers, only Anthony McFall could teach you about religion, and he don't even have to address Christianity and Islam. He could take you back to the spiritual practices of African spirituality and make it so plain that you will see there's another way. There's an alternative way of practicing spirituality. White supremacy don't want that. They don't want that. And it has nothing to do with numbers. It has to do with the mind state. If you could trigger the mentality of African people not to look into Islam and not to look into Christianity, but look into self in terms of spirituality and godhood and all these other ideas, this is the dangerous thing. This is the real fear in terms of governance. When Oni Tasseri, he says that his stuff is ineffective. It's ineffective in 2025. But what about 2125 when people look into the notes of how people thought or thought in terms of governance? He has written these things in scripts where people can read and start thinking and start operationalizing the things of what they read. When Jacadero talks about leaving Islam and saying, I'm going to hold on to this Luo thing. The Luo thing was longer and longer than Islam. It gone before Islam, way before Islam. This is the real fear. The real fear is in terms of governance. I can control you with my Westminster system, with my Christianity, and I don't even have to be in your country, and I can control you and have you wearing European wigs and still operating under the guise of Europeanization and European thinking. It's bigger than just the numbers, because we could still be more than them and still operate in a European or Eurocentric way of our reality. But when you flip that on its head, and start operating, when you start operating actually like an African person, close to center, this is the real danger. I know that the term "fear of a black planet" came from Francis Cress Welsing and the hip hop. I forget the name of the group. Who took that idea on a fear of a black planet and turned it into an album. But I disagree with Dr. Francis Cress Welsing with respect to her, greatest respect to her, because it's beyond the fact of numbers and genetic annihilation. Because we have seen now in 2025, there's so many Black Europeans that exist. It's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. So if you could get the Black person back to himself and saying, this is the way and means of governance, and we're going to structure a system that is going to touch economics, that is going to touch our social way of doing things, and it's going to touch our spirituality and operationalize these things. That is the greater fear than in terms of numbers, because we have a lot of Black Europeans running around. Most Nigerians trying to go to Europe, they trying to go to London to get educated, and then go take that education back to London, to Nigeria, to Lagos, and practice their European identity in Lagos. What is the fear there? What is the fear there? So I think that when you operationalize and get back to yourself, this is the greatest fear in the minds of a white supremacist who feels the right way of doing things is my way. Is my way and my way alone. And my way alone. This is the fear in the United States of America. The American is, you are an American practicing the Protestant, the white Protestant culture. But when you turn that on its head and say, well, this is not the only way to be American. In fact, the natives would say I was practicing Americanism way before Europeans came. You know, so this is real. In reality, this is a real way of losing power. It's the numbers game. I understand sometimes people get confused about that. But we could have a 45 million people practicing European culture. What is the fear there if you're European at the end of the day? He's still a European at the end of the day. And when the white guy enters the room, even though he is a minority, everyone is going to give him their veneration or respect. Why? Because they feel like him being in charge is the right way of running the world. Right way of running the world. And no one else's opinion should trump his opinion. But when someone comes in the room and says, wait a minute. This is your way of doing things, but here's a better way. Here's an alternative view of the world. Here's a different way of governing the world. This is his greatest fear, because this is where he actually disappears. This is where but Christopher Columbus ghost is still walking around in all of these Caribbean countries. Christopher Columbus ghost is still walking around in many of these American places. Christopher Columbus ghost is still walking around many of these, what do you call it? In many of these African countries. His ghost is still walking around. So I don't like to get into the numbers game. I like to get into the game of the mind. When you start to change the thinking of human beings and people. Because Cecil Rhodes is still God and Trump in Africa itself. It's the reason why I say no African countries have a state religion that is a traditional African religion. No, none whatsoever. How is that possible? So this, for me personally, in terms of fear of a Black man, I say it's fear of a Black identity and fear of Black culture superseding over everyone else's. It's not a matter of numbers. It go beyond numbers in my mind, you know, but I'll stop it there just to be brief. I'll stop there just to be brief.
Good stuff, Juan. I appreciate that. Black Steel, did I get Jacadero yet? Jack, did you speak? I think Jacadero spoke. So
yeah, I didn't go.
I spoke.
What else? Black Steel, take it away.
All right. So, a couple things about this. So those of you who may be aware of any, you know, in white supremacist circles, they talk about white genocide, right? They're talking about it's funny as fuck to even mention it, but this is many of those white people on the extreme side. They talk about white genocide, right? The idea that that those nations that are majority white are being purposely depopulated through immigration, and the women don't want to reproduce, right? All the women are being coerced into sleeping with black people and men of other races, which is a Jewish plot to depopulate the white race. It's funny when you hear about it, right? But at the same time, there's people who fervently believe in the white genocide theory. This map, which shows a map of fertility rates, right? It shows the nations with the highest fertility rate being in Africa. You got, what's this little country? Um Afghanistan, so on and so forth. Most of the countries of the world fall below replacement level, which means there's going to be a demographic crisis. You're going to have elderly people dying off and not enough young people to replace them. That's already happening in Japan. It's happening in South Korea. So these things are already going into effect right now. That's one thing. But again, Africa is again underpopulated because of because of slavery, because of colonization. There are many, and the AIDS crisis. The AIDS crisis killed off many young people of childbearing age, and there was nobody there to replace them. So you have countries that dealt with mass diseases and things like that. These are the effects. These are what's called a slow genocide. African people have been under a slow genocide for centuries, right? But I just want to say another thing too. If you look at that map and where the highest fertility rate is, some people are not gonna like this, but the world's temperature, because of climate change, many parts of the world are going to be considered to be uninhabitable, mainly around the tropics. And that is where Africa has more land in the tropics than any other continent. So there's going to be large swaths of Africa. If the global temperature rises 6 degrees, which is what is predicted to be by the year 2000, by the year 2100, that could be a crisis. You're going to have a mass migration crisis from these areas of the world which are more temperate. This is another reason why I believe that that the Europeans and the global capitalists haven't done anything to try to mitigate the climate crisis, because they know that the majority of the issues are going to fall along the tropical areas. So you're going to have areas like Canada. Why do you think Trump is talking about making Canada the 51st state? Why they want to take possession of Greenland? Because as the global temperature rises, many areas of land around the equator are going to be almost uninhabitable, right? Whereas the areas in Northern Europe, the Arctic, are going to be opened up for more, right? So this is something that if you look, even though the population fertility rate is high, you're going to see a lot more deaths too. There's going to be a lot more deaths. Just something to think about. I know it's getting late, so I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Carl. Black Steel. Is there any last thoughts on this prompt by anyone? If not, what we can do is we can actually go to our shout outs segment of the show. I want to thank everyone who participated tonight. The numbers, speaking of numbers, the numbers were a little bit low in terms of viewership, but hopefully folks will tune in after the show is posted on YouTube and watch it then. But great conversation all the same. That's the thing I like about Shoot the Breeze. It almost doesn't matter how many people are here. The conversations are still going to be top tier. So I do appreciate all you guys in the chat and on the panel. I guess that's my shout out. Oh, I guess one more shout out. Trinidad recently knocked down Christopher Columbus statue. So that ghost ain't walking around there as much right now. So shout outs to them. But let me go down the line here. Black Steel, what would you like to shout out this week?
Oh man, what can I shout out this week? Wow, shout out to everybody in the chat. there's not really much going on. Oh, school started. Shout out to all the kids starting school this week. Shout out to them. Everybody's ready for these new
What
cell
about fuck
phones.
them? What about fuck them kids? What about fuck them
Fuck them
kids?
kids, but shout out to them kids, man. Man, I already had to call home on one kid already. Oh, it's first week of school. I'm already had to call his dad. He was a white kid though, so whatever.
Appreciate that. Black Steel. Jackadero, what would you like to shout out this week? I guess Jackadero's not there.
No. We didn't hear you. We didn't hear you, man.
Oh, really? Oh, my bad. Jackadero, what would you like to shout out this week?
All right. Shout out to everybody on the panel. Big shout out, especially the ones that are outside of America. Oni, Buana, you guys are doing awesome. Continue to do what you guys do. Buana, man, when Jonkanu comes around, bro, come on, reach out, man. Come on, we need an invite. It's getting ridiculous. Shout out to Black Steel for being a teacher. I believe it's Black Steel, and if it is not anybody else that's on the panel that's a teacher, if you are anybody that is a parent and you have students or you have children, you have a niece, you have a younger cousin, and school isn't enough, or you don't feel that school is enough, I'm part of a larger network. The Empowerment Network that you see on your screen as www.empoweromaha.com. We are the consultant. Also, we put on a lot of student relation groups, one of them being the Step Up program, ran by the Empowerment Network. We provide mentors to your mentees of the Black community. Just 2 weeks ago, I was in attendance as well as working the Native Omaha Days, the historic festival for the historic North Omaha neighborhood, and it was awesome. North Omaha neighborhood is historically Black. This is where we still have Malcolm X's childhood home in existence. Every year on Juneteenth, we hold the Juneteenth festival at Malcolm X's rebuilt home. That is now a greenhouse, but nonetheless, his home and his family has still have their names on the title deed of that land. But nonetheless, if you have any student, again, any youth in your family or friends as family, reach on out to the Empowerment Network or Step Up program here in Omaha, Nebraska. Again, that's the Empowerment Network. We partner up with sister cities like Houston, Texas, Little Rock, Arkansas, Memphis, Tennessee, Kansas City, Missouri, Cincinnati, Ohio, and everything outside and in between. Again, that's the Empowerment Network at www.empoweromaha.com, the official website of the #1 Black organization here in the Midwest.
Appreciate that, Jackadero. Only what would you like to shout out this week?
I mean, I'm gonna shout out Chayore always. Just looking at it, some of this message he said. He said, "We are in 1800. We have to catch up with 2025 without delay." You know. I know this one brother. He's always talking about, man, we gotta watch out for AI. AI is gonna, it's a game changer. And it's like, part of me. I don't know if y'all know the Simpsons. There's a scene in The Simpsons when the zombies are coming after Homer, and they climb up on Homer, and then they, because they're seeking brains, climb up on Homer, and then noticing that his head is empty, they walk away, and he's like, "Wait a second, hold on," But it's like, if AI really want to kill off humans, it probably going to target humans that can threaten it. And I mean, I'm not saying, and I mean, obviously it's a good thing if AI don't kill you off, but it's a bad thing if AI don't kill you off because you ain't no damn threat. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously nobody want me to kill them by AI, so it's probably better. But I'm just saying, like, we as a people, we have to catch up. We have to catch up, and not to be destroyed by some whatever. But we just have to catch up, and we're not doing enough. But I'll tell you this. Chare is doing enough, so that's what I appreciate. This brother took, 5 years ago, we were talking about Burkina Faso, like, man, that country's never going to have nothing, blah, 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 blah. Today, we're like, that country's going to be something. And that really comes down to, when individuals live in their greatness. And that's what I'm trying to do on the continent. I'm not necessarily succeeding that much, but that's what I'm trying to do on the continent. That's what I was trying to do in America, sure. But what I'm saying is that's what I want us as a people to do, is just try to live in our greatness, because we can make a difference. Traore is showing us that we can make a difference. Only question is, do we want to make a difference? That's it.
Well said, Oni. Make sure you guys are tuned into and subscribe to Pro Black Perspective on the podcast here on KWAZ Radio. Anthony, what would you like to shout out this week?
Okay, man. I want to shout out all the brothers on the panel and all the brothers and sisters out there in the chat. Oni, be patient, man. Everything gonna work out for you, man. You gonna get it together, I know. I want to give a shout out to my niece Gabby, her birthday today. I want to give a shout out to President Assimi Goïta, who survived a French-led coup in Mali. In which they captured this French guy over there who tried to help lead the coup, man. So let's give a shout out for Mali for defeating the coup, man. And I want to give a shout out to Buona, man. His last segment, I couldn't say a damn thing, man. He was on point 100%. On everything he said, because tell the truth, I gave it up on him. I wrote him out the book of life. You know what I'm saying? To fall back on my old Christian stuff. I wrote him out the book of life. But he done came back into the black kingdom now, man. Buona was on point, man. So shout out to Buona, man.
With that said, man, thank you for that, Anthony. With that said, Buona, what would you like to shout out this week?
I'm glad I got back in the book of life, but shout out to the mayor of New Orleans, Miss Latoya Cantrell. I was I was looking her up. And she going through some hard times right now, and I like her. I kind of like her, Anthony. I don't know what you think about her, but shout out to Miss Latoya Cantrell. Hopefully, she does her thing and she gets out of her worries right now. I know they're trying to get at her, Babylon trying to get at her, but shout out to that sister. I don't know what I thinks about her. Shout out to Jacadero. It's a little bit difficult because I don't plan to be in the country for Christmas, but next year, if you have a wife, I'll fund your thing. I'll pay for your ticket to get to the Bahamas, and I'll pay for your Junction tickets next year. If I'm still in the country, and so you could experience the Junction. Bring your wife or your significant other, and it's on me. So since you really want to see the Junction Festival, yeah, but that's really what I wanted to shout out, and I'll leave it there.
Bring your chapati and ugali when you come too.
Loud and clear, you two. Loud and clear.
Man, thank you guys for everything, for making this conversation real good conversation. I think about these conversations sometimes for weeks after we have them. So I do appreciate you guys helping to keep my headspace on Pan-Africanism, on Black nationalism, etc. We should be back next week. It'll either be me or Jacadero. So in the meantime, post your topics on the Discord. Provide Triggers has been doing really well posting topics of late. Daily Affirmations posted some. We'll get to those next week. But you can have your interests discussed here on the panel. So, in any event, until next time, you guys be good. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine.